All right, all right. Welcome back to another edition of the Ethereal Journey podcast.
Shalom, shalom to everyone.
Shalom. We are back, family. And of course, we're going to be hitting y'all with some information, some news you can use, some of the good stuff. Be able to continue to prepare you on this journey of enlightenment, evolution, and elevation. All right. With that being said, I'm your host for this evening. One of your hosts for this evening, Captain Uncaged. I have with me, of course, illustrious co-host for this evening, Brother El Pollinator.
Yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. Greetings, greetings. Shalom to everybody. Hope everybody's been having a decent what I call less drama filled day.
Absolutely.
A lot going on in our beautiful universe. A lot of things happening that it's hard to keep up with most of the time right now. You know what I mean? So, welcome aboard the Ethereum.
Indeed, absolutely. Yes, much to do and much going on. We might be having some technical difficulties on some of our streaming platforms. I'm seeing a notification about YouTube experiencing some issues, in the back room here. So I'm not sure if that's going to be an occurrence. I'll try to check that periodically, as things continue on.
I'm gonna go check while we on too as well, and I'm gonna check Facebook as well.
Okay, all right. So yeah. Hopefully, everything is going to be running smoothly. I'll look to some of the other devices as that progresses as well. You know what I'm saying? Keeping everything on a steady kill. All right. Um, so yeah, we're gonna get started for this evening, family. Thank you for joining us once again. Waiting for our other co-hosts to beam on in as well. I know Sister Empress is doing some terraform, and I think following what's going on with the Artemis too. You know what I'm saying? So she's going to be doing some explorations on the moon. You know what I'm saying? Dark side of the moon and things of that nature, and getting some further intel as far as that's concerned. So she'll be beaming in a little bit later. And then uh, brother Knowledge Born Allah, who hopefully will be able to beam on board the Ethereum this evening as well. All right, as we continue on this ethereal journey. All right, so
So
all
no
those
go on Facebook for right now.
okay, no go on the Facebook aspect. I might have to move it and put it back. I'll see, how that goes on that level.
The tube look like it's. Let me see.
Let me try to view it as well. Okay. See on
Can you hear me,
Facebook.
Captain?
I can hear you now.
Okay, yeah, the tube looking like it's connected, so the tube is
Okay.
good, but the Facebook is not popping off. Let me reach out to brother KBA. Maybe he can
Oh,
come
I
in
see it
and
on Facebook. Oh, that's crazy. Yeah, I see it on
hold on.
Facebook. I just went to my page.
Okay.
Yeah, 4 minutes ago. So we live. So I will
No, it's not. It's not rocking on there.
hopefully.
It's not rocking on the book. It don't have the red thing around your name, nor does it have it in the reels like it's popping off right now. So I'm gonna reach out to KBA and see if he can come in and give us some technical assistance real quick. Hold on. Well, go ahead, keep going. Whatever you're going, I'm gonna just reach out real quick.
All right. Well, let me see if I can remove it and then add it back. It's crazy because I see it on my end though. You know what I'm saying? Like I just went live on the page and it's showing.
Yeah, I remember that happened the
Uh,
last time. Remember,
yeah,
you could see it, but then when me and Empress Chi went on your page, it wasn't there at all. So I'm gonna reach out real quick. You could
okay.
continue on whatever next.
Yeah, yeah.
Let me see.
Let me see.
No,
All right, I put it back up. It's reloading now, so maybe that will come back into play. All right. With that being said, we're going to be jumping into a couple of things this evening. I know we said we wanted to. Oh, I'm not seeing that in the chat. Hmm.
yeah, I reached out to KBA. Hopefully, he'll be chiming in shortly and try to get whatever technical difficulties coming through StreamYard.
Well, I just reset it, so hopefully it's up now. Um, I'm looking for. I don't see. Oh, that's interesting. I'm not seeing the information for.
Yeah, it's a go. It's a go on Facebook right now.
Okay, okay, yeah, I just reset it. All right, cool. I'm not seeing the information though that you had sent yesterday for the updated. Huh, that is weird. For the links that you had put in yesterday, I'm not seeing those. I'm not seeing that. Wow, that's so crazy.
Which you had talked.
Uh,
Yeah, it's all good.
yeah, yeah, I'm not seeing that. So if you could pop a couple of those links in currently, I know we was doing the piece on black women. Uh,
Talking about the Ashley B. John.
yeah, that was it was the Ashley B, and also well, that was for the update, but it was also on the essence of the black woman.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let me pop off real quick and find them, and I'll be right back.
All right, all
Well, if I
right,
get disconnected, I'll be right back.
okay. I'm not sure why that's not in the feed though. All right, family. We working it out. And keeping it pushing. Experiencing some technical difficulties here. We just had to restart the Facebook Live feed for whatever reason. Could be some of these solar flares and instances of that nature that's going on currently, but I cannot say for sure. Okay, very interesting though. Okay, all right, very interesting. Okay, all right, family. So, welcome back once again to the Theory Journey podcast. And today's show, we're going to be touching base and highlighting a few things. If you saw the thumbnail, we're going to be talking about secret societies. You're going to be digging into that aspect. You're going to be digging into aspects of what is known as cultural bandits. All right. So it should be information packed. You know what I mean, for what's going on for currently. Secret society is going to be dealing with some highly weird stuff as well as cultural bandits and how these things connect. All right. Secret societies, highly weird, what we call highly weird, and cultural bandits, and how we're going to connect some of these black dots. All right. We're going to be tapping into some information that was given to us from our ancestor, Mwalimu Del Jones. all right, native here of Philadelphia, and also tapping in and getting some information, some insight from ancestor and Nwalimu, Steve Copeland, all right, who brought a lot of information forward and broke a lot of stories as it pertains to, um, secret societies and the Boule. Okay, so we got some good information as it pertains to some of that scholarship, of our ancestors. All right, and warrior scholars. All right, so with that being said, we're gonna have a good show. We're gonna have a good show this evening, and thank you all for joining us once again. All right, let me uh, let me get to one of the initial clips for this evening. Matter of fact, let me knock out some housekeeping real quick. Let me get that out the way. All right, let me knock out some housekeeping. Okay, let me go ahead and share my screen here, family. Let me do my screen share and knock out a little housekeeping for this evening. All right, go ahead and get that out the way. Okay, here we go. So, this is fair use notice. All right. Notice of fair use. This is fair use notice. Due to the social nature of this site, this channel may make use of copyrighted materials, the use of which has not always been specified, specifically authorized by the copyright owner. Its application constitutes the fair use of any such copyrighted material as provided for in Section 107 of the U.S. copyright law. Okay. Material is offered to the public. All right. It's for educational and informational purposes solely. All right. The following work is to be intended to be shared for educational and informational purposes. Okay. Let me stop my screen sharing there. Matter of fact, can I? Uh, okay. Here it is. Here it is. Let me get the content disclaimer. All right. The views and opinions expressed in the media or comments on this channel are those of the speakers or authors and do not necessarily reflect or represent the views and opinions held by this channel's broadcaster. Due to the social nature of this broadcasting channel, videos may contain copyrighted content by another entity or person. This channel owner claims no copyright to said content. The broadcaster of this channel cannot be held accountable for the copyrighted content. The broadcaster of this channel is a messenger or share of information and strives to verify but cannot warrant the accuracy of copyrights or completeness of the information on this channel. If you have a complaint about something or find your content is being used incorrectly, please contact the broadcaster prior to making a copyright claim. Any infringement was not done on purpose and will be rectified to all parties' satisfaction. All right, let me stop my screen share there. Okay. Let me stop my screen share there. All right. Okay. All right, so we got Brother Pollinator. Hopefully he's back on. Hopefully we'll have Sister Empress joining us shortly and Brother Knowledge as well. Okay. All right. So with that being said, let me see if we have that information. Starting off with a little bit of context on aspects of what's happening currently and perspective from our good sister Ashley B with the decision that was made recently on March the 25th with the UN Declaration citing the transatlantic slave trade as one of the worst atrocities known to mankind and a violation of human rights, aka acts of genocide. Okay. Um, and also we should have some aspects, putting things into context as it pertains to what we know as mankind, womankind, right? Dealing with aspects of womanhood and its importance and context to nature, to creation, to the universe, all right, and to this planet Earth, all right. And again, we're going to be touching base on some aspects that we're going to be dealing with this evening, some of the crux of what we're dealing with, and that is going to be the subject matter of secret societies. We're going to be dealing with and digging in on Holly Weird, and also talking about culture bandits. All right, so with that, we're going to be tapping in with our ancestors again in Mwalimu's brother Del Jones, ancestor Del Jones, as well as ancestor Steve Coakley. All right, so we're going to be touching base on some of the recent events or recent happenings as it pertains to Hollywood, and connecting all of those dots to see how that affects us as a people, how it affects our culture, all right, and the psyche and spiritual acumens of our nation. All right, so thank you once again for joining us for this edition of the Ethereal Journey podcast. All right. With that, let me come to our calls for this evening and just tap in really quickly, checking in, tapping in, seeing how everybody been. All right, let me come over to Brother Pollinator, checking in, tapping in, seeing how you've been. How's everything this evening, Brother Pollinator?
Oh man, life is what it's doing. It's life, and we just got to keep
Absolutely.
on making sure that we on top of these things and doing what we got to do to maintain balance. Everything's been pretty swell on my end. Just doing a lot of work, behind the scenes, trying to make some things happen. We're not, well, yeah, we gonna make things happen. We don't watch things happen, and we don't say what happened. We make things happen as master
That's
manifest,
right.
as
That's right.
master manifestors. You know what I mean, brother KBA? So, that's what we in, we doing what we do, as part of our mission, our assignment, our purpose, our destiny. Because once you understand you have a certain level of reasoning to be here and you tap into that, the universe is going to open itself up and make sure you maintain your integrity to finish what you came here to do and the work that you're here to establish, and make sure by the next time that this shift happens again, we ain't gonna be dealing with all this evil, all this wickedness, and all the nonsense that we currently see. It's gonna be some peace, love, harmony, like it was before the wicked ones came into this matrix and did what they did. So to wrap it all up in one big old ball, I'm good. Just continue to do the righteous things that we need to do to move this thing forward. And with that being said, upward, forward, onward. This is our 42nd edition of the Ethereal Journey podcast, and we're glad you're here. Tune in, stay on this frequency, because we're getting ready to hit you with some major, major, major shots. So I yield.
All right, indeed, indeed. And thank you for that addition, Brother Pollinator. All right. Before I move forward, just want to see if there's any updates that you want to be able to share for the listening audience for anything that you got going on currently or in the near future.
We still doing the PSAs with the syphilis tsunami piece. We still promoting the Neo Soul, the most recently released one, the Neo Soul version of it as well. And, we're just doing a public service announcement and just getting people familiarized with the message, what we're trying to say. And a lot of people are tuning in. We're getting some frequencies coming in from Hollywood. I'm getting all kinds of politicians. I'm telling you, it's getting really, really interesting right now. But nevertheless, that's what we're doing right now. We're continuing to kick that off. And of course, I'm coming out with different videos every few days so that we can continue on putting the dots together and connecting the dots to why this song was released. It wasn't just released to talk about STDs and how we need to go get our butts checked. Yeah, that's part of it. But a lot of the message within the song, it relates to people on a personal level, a societal, community level, and then it also relates to people on a component of the spiritual and so-called religious level. So we hitting them with all forces. We coming at them with everything we got, because we ain't got that much more time left before some other things get ready to pop off that people need to be up to date on. They need to be up to speed up on some of these things. So that's all I'm doing, man. Just continuing on with the messaging and doing what we do to raise the awareness and the consciousness of our people. And with that being said, I yield.
Absolutely, absolutely, outstanding. And I thank you for that addition, brother Pollinator. And with that being said, let me come on over. We got him, family. He done beamed on board and in the building. So let me go to our other co-host for this evening, the one and only brother Knowledge Born Alive. How you be? How you been? Just checking in, good brother.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We hear you.
Am I coming in black and powerful?
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right,
Black and strong.
Black and strong. Too black, too strong. All right.
Yes, sir.
You know how they be doing when I get too black, too strong. They start messing around with the microphone and all that. You understand? It's your brother Knowledge Born Alive, story alchemist and author of Voices of the Diaspora ebook series, CEO of Do Knowledge Radio, DTK Multimedia Productions Company, and the voice of the voiceful. You know, as I stated before, we started off with the voice of the voiceless for 10 years. You know, so after you complete a cipher and start anew, you know, things got to come new. So this is our 11th year, so approaching this as the voice of the voiceful, because we are full of things to say, but no place to really share it. So moving away from marginalized voices to victorious ones, you know, from traumatic to triumphant. So like Almighty El Pollinator, my brother said, upward, onward. You understand what I'm saying? Upward, onward, forward. You understand? Like, you know what I'm saying? So we're dealing in
UFO,
this
baby, UFO.
progressive science of our reclamation. We're witnessing our reclamation. So there's no greater time to be alive than to have this space of documentation. We're fresh off of the Ascension Day of little Bobby Hutton. Peace and blessings be upon him. And Dr. King, peace and blessings be upon him as well. And as we approach the Ascension Day of our African Senate Minister of Information, Ancestral, Baba Steve Coakley Sr., we just keeping on rolling. I love that this is the 42nd episode, and I'm glad to be a part of it, because now we get back into the science of our laws, our universal laws that have been taken and popularized all over the world, but they won't give the credit where the credit is due, right? So the 42 cities that existed in the Nile Valley, and the reason why I was late, I was on while y'all was on. I was promoting volume 7 as it we're having. Hold on, was it volume 7? Yeah, volume 7. You know, on the 7th. You understand what I'm saying? Just being in line and in tune. And volume
Right.
7 deals with the legacy of our educators and scholars. You know, when we get deep, we want to get Greek, we want to get Asian, we want to get everything other than what we are, you know, because we haven't been properly astute in our approach and being aligned. So, you know, we come up with all of these proverbs and all of this stuff from these other people, and it ain't work for them. You understand what I'm saying? It didn't work for them. So it ain't gonna work for us. So we can't ascribe, as Dr. Bobby Eugene Wright said, peace and blessing be upon him, white definitions to black problems. So being clear in that regard and giving that old working through the volume, talking through the volume, even doing some additions and updates in the volume as I'm explaining it, you know, deep. So with the 42 declarations of innocence, misnomer as the 42 negative confessions, we see thou shalt not with the interpretation later, but it's I have not. So these 42 declarations of innocence, right? To have
Mm-hmm.
this mantra
Mm-hmm.
that exists within your heart and exists within your mind. So I say peace to our ancients that understood, train the child up in the way as they should go and they'll never depart. So if these are 42, declarations of innocence, these are also 42 systems of government. These are 42 states that existed in the Nile Valley culture. You understand what I'm saying? So these were interactions that happen on a regular in a daily perspective. And if we look at 42, for instance, in the Hebrew, we got the meme and we have the bet. You see what I'm saying? Because I got to talk Hebrew to
Mm.
pollinator because he going, what I'm saying,
Mm.
he gonna make sure that I ain't off point. So the meme is the
Mm-hmm.
waters,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Come on
And
now.
then the Beth is the house. You understand what I'm saying? So Bethany is the house of God, where the
Mm.
house of God resides. So where does that exist with us?
Mm.
So we're dealing with 42 in that perspective. 4 and 2 is 6 that has a space of equality. 4 times 2 is 8, and it's forever. That's infinity, right? So we're working from a perspective that we're grounded in the sacred womb and the ethereal womb of the mind of mother forever if we are in tune to her laws, right? So she is all law. So if we look at
Mm.
the Islamic paradigm,
Ooh.
Allah is from the triple goddess, Al Uzza, Al Mena, and Alat. So Alat was the most powerful of the goddesses, just hyperdimensionalized with the T and the H.
Mm.
So it went from Alat to Allah. So all praise is due to Allah. You understand what I'm saying? So in that consciousness that we exist in from the primordial waters and the internal and eternal mind of Allah, that mother, this is how we submerge. This is how we submerge because that is that spiritual building that scripture is speaking about, that house not made with hands, eternal in the heavens, forever in that mind, forever in her psyche, and never seeking to move away from remembrance of her and her remembrance to us. So the mommy watchers of the water give you the house that comprise of the earth, approximately three-fourths of its surface covered in water, and approximately three-fourths of our body consisting of water.
Mm-hmm.
So again, this correlation with these accesses of innocence, these declarations, right? These oaths of purity, working in that way to be able to make sure that we are honoring mother in all that we do. So the cosmic mother, the great mothers, to be in their grace and not be of the rafted ones that they talk about in the Alpati, how they call Al Makdubi, the rafted ones. You see the earth, as El Pollinator was eloquently speaking about, facing the judgment of Divine Mother. And we do not want to be of the polytheists. We don't want to be of those who ascribe and find partners with mother as if she needs one. You understand what I'm saying? And see the earth excellence that was allowed to come into the world. When you leave somebody in charge, you ain't really qualified to be in charge. This is what you do with your dominion, right? So now a redemption place is to, she never left us, but we have left her. Similar to that pantheon of Orisha when they talked about Oshun, everything that the builders were making were no longer bearing fruit because the essence of the love was forgotten because they said, oh, she don't have no purpose. So when the rivers dried up and all of these things, when Apache was talking about that essence, love is necessary and love is divine justice. Okay. So when we
Mm.
look at that essence of divine justice, we see mother coming back into being and these ones who sought to usurp her throne, her power, and her majesty fall victim to the wrath. You understand what I'm saying? So it's Kali Ma out here. So again, I ain't want to take that long to describe it, but I know
Mm.
you was gonna hit me and ask me about certain things going on, so I just wanted to
Mm-hmm.
present it properly from a mathematical, etheric perspective, because math is the universal language of the universe and the language of mother. So I'm gonna yield with that and say peace.
He need that he need that atomic explosion on that one. You put some neutrons, protons, and electrons into action.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. Yeah.
Woo!
So yeah, that was woo.
There we go.
Yeah, I just want to say real quick. I don't want to leave that part out. We in the waning gibbous moon,
Mm.
in the
Mm-hmm.
sign of Sagittarius tonight. You see what I'm saying? So we'll be there in that last quarter phase until tomorrow. So that's where the moon is, and the moon is in that sign of Sagittarius. So there's no coincidence that we're teaching, that we're building, that we're talking about travel and all of these things, because all of those things are associated with Sagittarius, long distance travel, teaching, all of these things. So we get to it today. You understand? And the arches is out. So if you get hit with an arrow, you're
Mm.
supposed to.
That's
Yeah.
right. We taking aim at you. We taking aim at you.
Mm.
Word up.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And fittingly so, you know what I'm saying? When we talk about individuals such as the late great ancestors Del Jones and Steve Coakley, you know, that's what it's all about. You know what I mean? So we definitely going to get into it this evening, family, and there's going to be no holds bars, and we ain't pulling no punches. All right. So with that being said, let me see. As far as I'm doing well this evening. I'm gonna see if I can put it up a little bit later, but there's going to be a tomorrow. There's going to be a shooting for a new music video. Shout out to the brother Kwame Bean Shakur. You know what I'm saying, behind the wall currently, and dealing with uh, the prison industrialization complex. You know what I'm saying? And so, continuing to fight for his freedom and to fight for justice. So we want to make sure we're doing our part on the other side of the wall to be able to get the information out there and continue to support those individuals. He deals with the group that he has organized called Prison Lives Matter. In conjunction with some of the elder political prisoners who have been freed, such as Jalil Montekim and others, in order to make sure that, these issues are staying to the forefront of what's happening with the prison industrialization system, with the prison industrialization complex, with the current, um, you know, realities of political prisoners, right? And what that means to our society as a whole, what that means for our people and our culture. All right, making sure that those histories are not lost, right, and that those struggles continue to push forward, and that those batons can pass to the next hand and next generations, and that we can make sure that our elder political prisoners are home and are free. All right. So also, you know, want to bring awareness and attention to the Black Panther 3 right here in Philadelphia, PA, with Mumia Abu Jamal, renowned journalist, right? Also known as the voice of the voiceless, right? An author, activist extraordinaire, dealing with not only national, but international issues, right? That's dealing with injustices and has been doing so for 40 plus years
Look at
He
it. Now you see where I got it from, Captain Uncaged. See that work?
triple salute, triple salute. You know what I'm saying? That's why it falls right into place. Couldn't have planned it any better. You see what I'm saying? So, he's still fighting for his freedom. As he was the voice to the masses. All right, we have to continue to be his voice and to make sure that those plights are reaching the ears of the masses, and that those masses of people who we help to liberate through his journalism and through the information from the books that he has authored from his research and lived experience. We have to make sure that we are his voice and continue to ring those bells of freedom and liberation until he is indeed free. What we have to do now, family, we have to do that now. All right, he has upcoming Earth Day, and we're continuing to push that information forward on the initiatives, rallies, and so on and so forth for his freedom campaign. All right, along with Zulu Kenny, Elder Kenny Zulu Whitmore, all right, original Black Panther Party member, all right, and two activists behind the wall as well, all right, in conjunction as well with, uh, you know, original Black Panther veteran as well, all right, Baba Kamal Siddiqui, okay, activist extraordinaire as well. All right, so we want to make sure that the people know, the public know, the masses know that these people are still being unjustly held and have been incarcerated for decades. All right, based on their political stance. All right, as it pertains to fighting against the systems of off-white supremacy and injustices that have reigned for over 400 years in this country, which is the foundation and the fundamental aspects of the building blocks of this country. As we get into, which we will shortly, the information pertaining to the declaration of the UN on March the 25th, that again, uh, gave credence to the the aspects that the transatlantic slave trade was one of the worst atrocities known to mankind. All right, and that we are indeed due reparations and reparatory justice. All right, family. So we're going to be having a video clip from our sister Ashley B, who is going to be dropping some additional information on that. We've touched base on it, on a few occasions, and we're continuing that fight into that journey. As a matter of fact, we're going to be
Cap,
having
can I shout you out real quick?
go for it, yes, sir.
This graphic, I just want the people to know real quick. All right, the graphic that you made for tonight. That's all I'm gonna say. You understand what I'm saying? If you know, damn it, you know. All right. The Secret Society, Hollywood, and Culture Bandits, this ethereal journey graphic with Nana Kuntu, aka Baba Del Jones, peace and blessing be upon him, and Steve Coakley pointing at that raggedy boule. You understand? And all of the innkeepers, the gatekeepers, and all of those bastards. I'm just wanting to salute you real quick, Cap. This joint is serious. All right.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Much appreciated. Much appreciated. You know what I'm saying? That said a lot. That means a lot. You know what I'm saying? Coming from one of the greats of this era as it pertains to production and media. You know what I'm saying? Brother Knowledge born our lives. So what I mean? I definitely, humbly accept that, and much appreciated for that recognition. You know what I'm saying? So if I may, let me go ahead and put that up on the screen real quick, and let the folks get a glimpse of, and this is a thumbnail currently,
Yeah, pop your
for
collar.
our stream.
Pop your collar. He's bookable. Okay, if you got a budget, holler at him. You get your graphic design done. Okay? Yeah, this is tough. Almighty L, this is tough. You understand?
Oh,
Like,
man.
because
Come on, bro.
we know, because we don't give our folks enough credit in real time. There was people who was ducking both of these men. You understand? I know
Mhm.
Mhm.
personally It was ducking and shucking, ducking and shucking, ducking and shucking. You understand what I'm saying? So if you
And
wanted an
jiving.
image, right, right. If you wanted an image of a strong black male figure that was unapologetic and that was fearless, this is it. You understand what I'm saying? Like this joint, that's merch. You understand? Like
Mm,
I would rock that. I'm proudly. You know what I'm saying? And wish a cat would say something. Somebody had to tell them when they woke up what happened. But this is real. Like, if you're talking about putting on the whole armor of God, this is what it means. Like those who
mm,
stand up for truth and righteousness, they get castigated while they're alive and herald when they pass. We have to reverse engineer that kind of mind where we call on the living and those from the ancestral realm with the same regard. You see what I'm saying? With the same regard because, they get removed. You see what I'm saying? They get removed. And those truth tellers and truth seekers, they dedicated their lives to bring us this information, flush it out with us, go back and forth with us about it because they were not, all absolute in that regard. They were open to what you had to bring forth as an omission or an addition. You see what I'm saying? So
mm, mm,
honest to both of them and honest to you for having the creativity and brilliance in your mind to be able to accentuate these things in a manner for real. I definitely am going to share that with his son, Steve Cokey Jr., on Saturday. So,
excellent, excellent. Thank you for that. You know what I mean? Thank you for that, brother knowledge. I definitely appreciate that. And for those who don't know, just to tap into these graphics a little bit and why the title is Secret Societies Highly Weird and Culture Abandoned, because these brothers dealt with this type of subject matter and really being at the forefront of exposing a lot of the things that are, somewhat common knowledge today. When the time when these brothers was dropping these truth bombs, it was not. It took, years of extensive research, right? Time, energy, and effort to compile this data and this information and the receipts. These brothers didn't just come with, just the conversation. You know what I'm saying? They came with the receipts. You know, so they came with documented evidence to substantiate their claims. All right. So on the left hand side, far left hand side, you see the actual symbol for the boule. All right, for the Black Greek fraternity. You know what I'm saying? That uh, ancestor Mwalimu Steve Coakley helped to unveil. Okay, all right, and that brother is right here in the middle. All right, this is the late great ancestor Mwalimu Steve Coakley. You know what I'm saying? And then right next to him, right on the far right, is our brother, the late great ancestor Mwalimu Del Jones. All right, who is the author of Culture Bandits, volumes 1, 2, and 3.
As well as
Okay,
Black Holocaust.
Black Holocaust. All right, and so we're gonna be digging in, family. We're gonna be getting into that. You know what I mean? So shout out to the ancestors and their great work and legacy, and we're going to continue to push it forward. You know what I mean? It will not be forgotten, and it is not. It has not been in vain. All right, family. Let me stop. Let me stop my screen share there. All right. So with that being said, I think we can go ahead and start jumping into the proceedings this evening. All right, we're going to be having, like I said, we're going to be having Sister Empress joining us in a little bit. You know what I'm saying? She getting going out there doing some spacewalking and gathering some information based on what's happening with the Artemis 2. You know what I mean? And this whole moon thing they got going on. So she should be beaming on to the Ethereum in the near future. All right, and giving us some updates on what she got going on with the Million Woman March and universal movements. All right. I know May 9th is coming up for an event there. All right. With the Declaration of Human Rights, following up with also ancestor Paul Robeson, and, right in line in conjunction with the Declaration of the UN on the 25th. All right. As well as, there's going to be, it's in the works now, a human rights concert. All right. That is going to take place in the very near future. All right. Again, to highlight this, unprecedented declaration by 123 nations that, came on board and an agreement in declaration that the transatlantic slave trade was one of the uh, most horrendous atrocities that has occurred in human history. All right, and is indeed violations of human rights and is indeed the crimes against humanity. All right, family. So we're going to be hearing some updates from Sister Empress in the very near future. All right, so she'll be coming on board there, Therion, a little bit later this evening. All right, with that being said, let me start off with some of these good black facts and universal black history. All right, so let me tap in with Sister Ashley B. All right, and see what she has to say about this subject matter. All right, if I may. Okay, let me go ahead and share my screen, family. Let me share my screen right here. All right here. Okay. All right, here it is right here. All right, cool. Boom. All right, hopefully y'all seeing that. Okay. Let me go ahead and get a quick refresh.
Kicked off this platform. So I'm going to be graphic. It is what it is. Let's talk. Because this week something happened that took us about 400 years to get to. And before I tell you what was said, I need to tell you what was being named. Because this is the part that never gets said with the weight that it deserves. Before a single ship left the coast of West Africa, the people who were going to be put on it were already being processed, stripped naked, prodded, groped. Traders invasively examined the breast, buttocks, and vaginal areas of women and girls, allegedly to assess their childbearing ability. Men and boys were groped around the groin, scrotum, and anus. One white trafficker who later testified described the process as similar to what you would do to a horse before purchasing it. These were human beings, y'all. They were being evaluated the way that you would evaluate livestock. And when the evaluation was done, they were assigned a number, not a name, a number, and loaded onto ships. These ships were built into two categories: tight packers and loose packers. Tight packers maximized profit. Human beings were measured with instruments with charts to calculate how many bodies could be chained in a single row. The space allocated per person was roughly the size of a coffin. Men were shackled together in pairs at the wrists and ankles and packed into the hold lying on their sides, unable to sit up, unable to turn over, unable to move. The heat in the hold was lethal and suffocating. There was almost no ventilation. The air was so thick with human waste, sweat, and disease that sailors reported being unable to breathe when they opened the hatch. Dysentery tore through entire decks. People vomited on each other. People had diarrhea on each other. People died chained to the person beside them and stayed there, rotting, until someone came to remove the body. Sometimes that took days. Smallpox spread. Measles spread. The living were chained to the dead in spaces the size of coffins, in heat that historians describe as suffocating and unbearable. In the middle of the ocean, women were kept unchained in separate compartments, not as mercy, but because being unchained made them easier to access. Crew members raped them throughout the voyage, not occasionally, routinely. Those who resisted were flogged. Women gave birth on those ships, without medical care, without assistance. In those conditions, most newborns didn't survive. In one documented case, a captain punished a failed rebellion by killing one of the men involved immediately and forcing two other enslaved people to eat his heart and liver, while the rest watched. This is in the historical record, y'all. It is documented in historical accounts of the Middle Passage. About 15% of the people put on those ships, nearly 2 million human beings died before they reached land. They were thrown overboard, and some were thrown overboard alive because maritime insurance paid for cargo lost at sea, not cargo that died of illness. Throwing people into the ocean alive was more profitable than letting them die of disease. The most documented case is the Zong Massacre of 1781, in which a British captain threw 132 enslaved people into the ocean alive and filed an insurance claim. The case went to court. The question before the court wasn't whether a crime had been committed, though. The question was whether the insurance policy covered the loss. The ones who survived the crossing arrived at a port and then were processed again. Before they were sold, their skin was rubbed with oil to disguise cracking and lesions. Their heads were sometimes shaved to remove gray hairs and bacteria, to make them look younger and healthier than they actually were. They were examined again by buyers, poked, prodded, molested. George Washington, who would become the first president of the United States, specified in writing in 1772 that he preferred enslaved people not exceeding 20 years of age. He was placing an order for human beings, like you would place an order for food, and the ones who were purchased were put to work. About 80% of enslaved Africans transported across the Middle Passage ended up on sugar plantations in South America and the Caribbean, where the mortality rate was so high that the entire enslaved population had to be continuously replaced through the ongoing slave trade. People worked from before dawn until after dark in gangs, cutting sugarcane in tropical heat, feeding it into mills regularly to fingers, hands, and arms. Life expectancy on a sugar plantation was measured in years, not decades. The system consumed people. That was the model. You work them to death and then you buy more. In the United States, enslaved people were raped systematically by the men who owned them, by overseers, by anyone the law permitted. And when those rapes produced children, those children were born enslaved. The enslaver's blood ran through the veins of the people that he owned. Families were deliberately separated at auction. Children sold away from mothers, husbands sold away from wives, with the specific intention that they would never find each other again. Their languages were criminalized. Their religions were outlawed. Their names were replaced with the names of the men who owned them. Reading and writing were made illegal. The systematic destruction of identity, culture, language, family, and humanity was not incidental to the system. It was the system. You can't enslave a person that knows who they are. So they made sure people didn't know. This ran for 400 years. The records are a little fuzzy, but between 12 and 14 million people were stolen from Africa. Nearly 2 million died on the crossing. Tens of millions more were born into slavery in the Americas. The wealth generated by their labor built banking systems, the insurance industries, the textile industries, and the national economies of Britain, Spain, France, Portugal, the Netherlands, and the United States. That wealth was inherited. It was compounded. It is still here. When Britain abolished slavery in 1833, the government paid £20 million in compensation, equivalent to about £2 billion today. That money went to the enslavers, not to the enslaved. British taxpayers were paying off that debt until 2015. Lloyd's of London, which insured slave ships throughout the trade, they formally acknowledged the history and apologized for it. But the wealth didn't disappear. It compounded. The cotton that enslaved people picked in Mississippi in 1850, it built the textile industry that funded the Industrial Revolution. None of that wealth was ever returned. And when it was over, the men who built all of that wrote the history books. They named the streets after themselves, built monuments to the men that tried to keep it going, taught children that it was a tragedy of its time, something complicated, something to understand in context, you know? This week, 123 countries stood up at the United Nations and said, no, we see it, we name it, the gravest crime in the history of humanity. And I keep thinking about the people that never got to hear that. The people who died carrying the truth of this in their bodies, with the world's silence pressing down on top of it. Our ancestors knew exactly what it was. They lived it and the world looked away. That's not a small thing to finally name. Now let's talk about who refused to name it. 3 countries out of 193, the United States, Israel, and Argentina. 3 countries looked at a non-binding statement, not a reparations check, not a court summons, not a single dollar changing hands, Not one person facing any kind of consequences, just a formal moral acknowledgement that this happened and that it was the worst, and voted no. They voted no. And the argument this country made is one of the most clarifying things they've said in years. The US Deputy Ambassador stood up in that hall and said, "The United States does not recognize a legal right to reparations for historical wrongs that were not illegal under international law at the time they occurred." They built the legal system that made all of that legal. They wrote those laws. They enforced them. They sent men with guns to drag the people back that survived long enough to escape. They fought a war. Hundreds of thousands of people died, specifically to keep those laws in place. And now they're sitting behind those same laws as their defense, as proof that they don't owe anything. The country that engineered the legal architecture of chattel slavery is using that same architecture like a shield. That's a confession if I've ever heard one. And then there's Europe. Europe didn't vote no, they abstained. And I want you to hear what Europe said in order to explain that. The European Union said that they couldn't support the resolution because the word gravest implies a hierarchy amongst atrocity crimes, and no legal hierarchy between crimes exists. The country that designed ships specifically engineered to maximize the number of human bodies that you could pack into a hull, that built the plantation economies that made European aristocratic families wealthy for 10 generations and counting, that colonized an entire continent and drew its borders at a conference in Berlin in 1884, where not a single African person was present, that extracted the gold, the diamonds, the rubber, the copper, the people for 100 years, and are still sitting with that wealth in 2026, had concerns about an adjective, not the 2 million people thrown into the ocean, not the women raped on those ships, not the children sold at auction, the word used to describe all of it. The Netherlands is the only country in the world that's ever formally apologized for its role in the slave trade. One out of every nation that participated. One apology in the entire history of the Western world. But look at who said yes, right? 132 countries, the entire African continent, the Caribbean, Latin America, most of Asia, the global South. The people who know from their blood and their bones what it means to be on the receiving end of that power. They didn't hesitate. They didn't debate language. They didn't have concerns about adjectives. They called it what it is without flinching, without qualifying, without apologizing for the clarity of it all. And for the first time in the history of international law, it's on the record. What happened to African people wasn't complicated. It wasn't a product of its time. It wasn't something we need to understand in context. It was the worst thing human beings have ever done to each other. 123 names on it. So let me be clear about what this week was and what it wasn't. It wasn't justice. It wasn't reparations. It wasn't accountability. No one's going to prison. No check is being written. No land is being returned. No wealth redistributed. It was 123 countries agreeing on a word, a non-binding word, and even then it was too much for some people. But that word, after 400 years of refusing to say it, is not nothing, because our ancestors carried the truth of this without anyone official ever confirming it. They knew what it was. We have always known what it is. And for generations, we were told we were exaggerating, that we needed to move on, that it was a long time ago, that people asking for acknowledgement were the problem. 3 countries said no, but 123 said yes. And the people who built this world on the bodies of our ancestors, who designed ships to fit more of them in, who rubbed oil on their skin to hide the damage before putting them on the auction block, who bred them like livestock and sold their children and raped their daughters, and then wrote history books calling it complicated, spent 400 years trying to make us forget that we were worth fighting for. This week, the world disagreed. That belongs to us. It always has. And nobody gets to take that back. This might be the one that gets me kicked off this platform.
All right, family, there you have it. That was the latest from Sister Ashley B. All right. And in rare form, dropping it, okay, as it is, making it plain. All right. Giving up the facts. All right, family. Let me see. Let me come to ethereal journalists to see if there's any additions. I'm not seeing any comments in the Facebook. No, excuse me, in the YouTube. And I'll come back to see if there's anything on Facebook. Let me coming over to Brother Pollinator. What was your thoughts and opinions on this situation or this information that was dropped by our sister Queen Ashley B?
She's one of the most forefront and foremost documenters of history that you can find that brings it straight with no chase or uncut to the gut, as we say. Everything she hit on connected everything, man, connected all the dots. And I love the way she does it in a very smooth, calm, and factual, manner where she does not flinch. She speaks her speech, and she makes sure that all her words are coming forward with power and energy, so that whoever can hear her or at the sound of her voice, they can understand exactly what she's talking about. She made it very clear, made it very concise. So I just love the way she brings our history to us. That's, no doubt. It's no doubt about what she's saying in her research, and sometimes when people, come on these platforms, they don't have their research and facts down pat, and they come in sort of like shooting from the hip a lot of times. But one thing I can give this Queen Ashley B, the Baroness, she brings it. And as it pertains to the recent UN situation where they have declared that the transatlantic slave trade was the most gravest crime in the history of humanity, it's a good thing that they are acknowledging it now. And it's beautiful that, the universe is forcing the truth to come out on a very universal scale, but on a world scale as well. So hopefully what had happened with that vote, except for the three countries that did not agree with the full, body of the UN, hopefully one day these things will continue to bring forth righteousness and justice, which are our ancestors who felt the pain and trauma of the transatlantic slave trade. So I'm just thankful that the other nations agreed that I don't care whoever else went through whatever they went through in the history of the world, that a transatlantic slave trade has yet to be recompensed. It has yet to be able to come forward and have us be able to look at our history and just be people to be accountable for what they did, because generational wealth has been created. We still see it walking around in every city and every suburb of the United States of America. Generational wealth was created off the backs of the brothers and sisters and our ancestors that came through the Middle Passage. So I'm just happy that, the acknowledgement with the UN happened, and then how Ashley B, Sister Ashley B brings forth the information to the masses. So I just want to, give her acknowledgement and commend her for her work. And with that being said, I land.
Absolutely, absolutely. Dropping it like it's hot.
She
We
did.
coming over to Brother Knowledge Born Allah. Any additions to that? What's your take, good brother?
Well, thank you actually for this video. Like today being 42, and we went through the mathematics, we went through the science, we see where the position of the moon is. It's literally prophetic. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm,
Sometimes you might hear somebody say something like, "Well, we know what they done." You ain't got no clue. You ain't got no clue.
mm,
And what the divine oracle essence speaking to her, she gave you a warning. Like, I'm gonna be graphic. You understand what I'm saying? So you understand what this is, because I don't think we even look at that in that kind of way. I'm telling you, it's like you really need to. She gave it thorough. She gave it from her heart. She gave it from her mind. She gave it from her spirit. She gave it from her essence. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you still there after? Like, the world ain't burned up. You understand what
mm,
I'm saying? Like when a mother cries, things are supposed to get washed up with those tears. You understand what I'm saying? Like, there's something that's supposed to happen. So like when a child, like a newborn, when they cry, or when an infant cries, if the mother is suckling that child, she begins to leak milk automatically. to answer that cry, that cry for nourishment, and cry for closeness, that cry for connection, and we have become disconjointed and dismembered from that. So our mothers are crying, our grandmothers are crying, our women are crying. So we got work to do in that regard. Like Almighty Apollo spoke on, is good for the acknowledgement. But Dr. Robert Eugene Rice said blood debts is supposed to be answered in blood.
Mm.
So you take that how you want to take it. You understand what I'm saying? Blood debts is supposed to be answered in blood. And we got a bunch of debt that is owed. The money can't fix it. They can tell you blood money, but honestly, ain't no amount of money. How can you pay it? How can you quantify it or qualify it? So there's some reformation that needs to be done. So when that mother speaks, there's a call and response. You understand what I'm saying? So she gave the call, and I'm proud to be a part of the response, a part of the response. So it's a whole bunch more to say, but I'm healed because Doc Empress is in the building. You understand what I'm saying? So right on time. Mother was in the building. Honestly,
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. All right. So we have beamed on board the Ethereum. Sister Dr. Empress.
Greetings, everyone. My apologies for coming in later than expected. I was on a train that really had a whole bunch of stuff going on it and it got held up. But anyway, I'm here now.
All right. All right. Excellent. Excellent. All right. Thank you for joining us this evening. And let me just go to you really quickly, checking in, tapping in, seeing how you've been, and any updates for us as far as what you have going on, presently or in the near future.
All right. Well, I don't know if you got a chance to mention about what's coming up for Thursday when we do our annual commemoration for Paul Robeson Ancestral Day. Yeah. Being consistent is nothing like it. So for folks who like to jump in and jump out and jump in and jump out, let me tell you, consistency is in fact key. It's so important because now we are really starting to see the manifestation of some of the hard work that we've put in over the years. We've been doing Paul Robeson annual either Ancestral Day or Born Day for 10 years now. And now, it's like he's talking to us, he's speaking to us. Again, to just go back to what happened on March the 25th, I just find it so interesting that people have said, or I've heard some people say, oh, that don't mean nothing, da, 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 da. And today I saw something coming out of Benin, or a representative from Benin, and what that particular sister said was so poignant, so on point. What she said, to just kind of summarize, is that the representative did not attend the session in New York. However, what they said was they want to take things to the next level. And the next level means things like citizenship. And in other words, the sister's position was, and she was one of the officials, I'm sorry, I don't remember her name right offhand, but she literally said that, to be there for the vote and all that was good and a great thing. She said, but now it's about what is folk going to do? And she literally said one of the things that needs to be done is to advance the capability to have citizenship and land and things of that nature. So for those who thought that this meant little to nothing, I think y'all going to be in for a big surprise. So again, on Thursday, for our annual Recharge Genocide 21 commemoration of Paul Robeson Ancestral Day, we will be doing a briefing, a community and media briefing. It should only probably be like maybe a half an hour. Myself, Baba Abiodun, of course, from Lumumba and Cage and our ethereal family, we are going to make the official announcement in regards to not only our Here We Stand summit, that is going to focus on what are some of the next steps for repair. And we are now planning to do our first public or more national pre-plebiscite session. So that's going to happen later this year. But connected to that summit is now a concert, a music arts concert. And so on Thursday, we'll give you more information. We now have the theme. It is now manifest into 3 concerts. And so on Thursday at 7 o'clock, we will give you updates and make the official announcement to what we call conscientious and conscious artists. So we've been talking a lot over the years about how hip hop and music, I mean, you know, we got these other people got our music like us and we just applauding and hopping and jumping. And then we got hip hop and that's going all crazy. Or now I won't say hip hop, but y'all know what I mean. The genre that we used to call hip hop then got all crazy. And so now we can do something about it, because with this concert, which again is commemorating the vote, the shall we say, the declaration that the United Nations states or nations agreed upon. We are going to celebrate that. We're going to commemorate that and now connect with them directly. And again, because we know that language can be a barrier, religion can be a barrier. What we know that isn't a barrier is music and art. That speaks for itself. And so this is going to be our way. Yep, absolutely. This will be our way to begin to bridge some of the gaps, but also to see what we need to do now to make some things manifest. And so again, that's going to be Thursday, 7 o'clock. You'll be able to catch us on Zoom and also Facebook Live. Brother Lumumba will give you more information on that before we close out tonight. And again, it is a major, major concert. Baba Abiodun is planning to connect with Chuck D, Erica Badu, and others. And this is phase 1, so that we can now start promoting and developing our own music again in a way that really represents our ancestors, that really represents our creativity, that represents our spirituality, etc. So now we're going to be bringing artists together that get it and want to do it. So that's my report.
All right, absolutely. All right, outstanding. All right, and thank you for that addition, Sister Empress. All right, family, you heard it here first. Okay, and I'm gonna work to putting that information in the chat, as far as the Zoom links and so on and so forth. All right, so I should be having that in the I should be having that loaded up shortly. Okay, and that's right in time to Sister Ashley B and what she was talking about. You know, we just played the clip with Sister Ashley B, and you know her getting into some of the uh, declarations that was just passed on the 25th of March, as well as you know just getting further in depth into the experiences and the applications of the transatlantic slave trade and how that you know affected our people, and to really dig in into what some of those atrocities actually were, to put things into greater and fuller context about the Black experience and the need for preparatory justice and reparations for our people. All right. And this being one of the fundamental preliminary steps as it pertains to that resolution. All right. So, with that being said, let me jump into our next clip because it kind of puts things into further perspective as well. You know, when we talk about dealing with our culture, right, and having control of it, dealing with the aspects of imagery and narrative, right, being griots, and you know being able to express these things from our essence. Uh, One of the things we have to look at is, what and how we're defining ourselves, what we're defining ourselves as currently and how we're doing so, right? And really being able to put that into further context as far as it pertains to our culture and our people, as opposed to, taking on the definitions that was given to us by our oppressors, looking at the skewing and mutations of certain ideologies and concepts that have been put forth currently with the dominating society and Western civilization that we know is out of whack, that we know is unbalanced, that is ill and disease, okay, and malformed and malfunctioning. All right, so we want to look at how or why are we continuing to take on these things wholeheartedly, and what can we do to be able to shift some of these paradigms as far as how we're defining things, how we're interpreting things, and how we can begin to redefine things that are going to serve us greater for our purpose and for our destiny. Okay, so with that being said, let me get into some perspectives on womb, right? The woman and womanhood, and I dare to assert that our folks, we can, in the sense of kujichagulia, self-determination, and finding things for ourselves, be able to shift from the definition or the concept of mankind and be able to shift that into womankind. All right, that's something we can do, family. That's something that we can absolutely do, and it's according to us, right? And no one can stop us. All right. So with that being said, let me get into this next clip, this next video, and let's get some perspective, some deeper understandings on divine femininity, right? And what it is, what its point, place, and purpose truly is. Okay. So let me pull that up and let me share my screen. All right. And we get into the why. Why is it that we would want to redefine things in this fashion, in this nature? All right. And so let me go ahead and share my screen, family, and let's get into this next clip. All right. Here we go. Let me share my screen here. Let me do a quick refresh. Let me get the audio right.
Every man on the planet began life in feminine form. Not metaphorically, not spiritually, biologically. Before your voice dropped, before testosterone surged, before the world told you what a man is supposed to be, your body followed the feminine blueprint. And science confirms it. This ain't about diminishing men. It's about restoring forgotten knowledge and remembering where power truly comes from. In the womb, all human embryos start the same structures, same pathways, same potential. For the first weeks of development, the body defaults to a female blueprint. The genital tubercle becomes either a clitoris or a penis. The labia becomes either labia or scrotum. The vaginal canal becomes the prostate. Nothing is created new, it's just reorganized. The penis is not a separate invention. It's an externalized clitoris. The scrotum is fused labia. The prostate is the internal echo of the womb. See, men aren't the opposite of women. Men are a variation of the feminine form, shaped outward by hormones. This ain't my opinion. This is embryology. Think about that. If the body's default design is feminine, then the feminine is not secondary. It's primary. I don't care what your religion said. I don't care what your Bible said. Creation begins in receptivity, in containment, in darkness. No dark waters, a dark matter womb. The masculine doesn't replace the feminine. It emerges from it, which means every man carries the feminine within his origin, within his biology, within his memory. This is why ancient civilizations honored the divine feminine. Why creation goddesses came before war gods. Why wisdom was once associated with the womb, not dominance. The fault wasn't physical, it was forgetting. Men aren't less emotional by nature. We were trained to suppress where we came from. The masculine was never meant to conquer the feminine. It was meant to guard it, to stand around it, to stabilize it, to express it outwardly in the world. That's why imbalance feels so violent today. The masculine disconnected from its source becomes destructive. A A world that dishonors the feminine forgets how to create and only knows how to consume. But the divine feminine is reawakening right now, not just in women, but in men remembering where they came from. Right knowledge isn't about flipping power, it's about restoring mayat, balance, truth. When men remember the divine feminine within them, and women remember the power they were never meant to lose, creation stabilizes, humanity recalibrates, and the old system collapses naturally. Because the truth doesn't fight lies, it outgrows. These religions were made to suppress the divine feminine. They lied to women for thousands of years. You know the truth now. We not tolerate no disrespect for the divine feminine. She will be put back on her throne. The great awakening is here. Time, remember? It's now. What if I told you that every man on the planet began life in a feminine form?
All right, family. Let me stop my screen share there. Okay. So, again, we're looking at, how and why are the things the way that they are, right? As a whole in society. When you're talking about mainstream religions, when you're talking about, society as a whole and how we're dealing with one another, how we're dealing with people, how we're dealing with the planet, right? You're talking about wars and atrocities. When we're talking about the imbalances that we're seeing around the planet, could some of these things be caused by, the way that energy is being manipulated, the way that energy is being suppressed, the way that the feminine aspect and energy is being oppressed, right? And that unbalance creating all the upheaval that we're seeing in the world, okay? Because we want to have, or the powers that be want to have a Eurocentric, male-dominated society and world, when this is, in opposition to nature and to creation itself. Okay, and we're wondering why we have, all of the, abnormalities that we're seeing within society, mentally, physically, and spiritually. Okay, so with that, we put forward that we can start to change our realities by starting to change our vocabulary, what we're professing, starting to change how we think, right? And then within that, changing what is being and what is to be. Okay, so with that, the declaration that we will refer to humanity as womankind and no longer mankind. All right, as we just saw the scientific and esoteric evidence that the feminine energy is the ultimate. All right, with that being said,
I was about to say, drop yourself a bomb now. Drop yourself one.
let me drop myself one. Let me drop it on that. That might be a bombshell for many. You know what I'm saying? And we was talking, offline, Brother Pollinator, of some of the, scientific evidence of this, right? Talking about the chromosomes, what I mean? How all human beings, as the brother alluded to, start off as XX chromosomes.
That's right.
And that portion, that leg drops off and becomes XY.
XY.
But when we look at the foundation and the origination, it starts in a feminine form.
Pow, boom, shaka laka laka, all of that.
You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, the XX and the XY were never meant to be apart.
That's right.
Because like we said, X comes before Y. So all the Y is just the X, one of the legs kicked off the X. That's all the Y is. So that shows you that we came from the genetics and the genealogy of a woman, as we always say. And, last year, 2025, I talk about it throughout a lot of my postings online, that was the year of the divine feminine, meaning 2 + 2 + 5 = 9. As Brother Dudanala says, we're going to do the math. Now it's 2026. 2 + 2 + 6 = what? 10. 1 + 0 = 1. Meaning,
ourselves.
Right. We are now back one when it comes to the mathematics part with our mother and the universe. And we have to be one. And yeah. there's a thing in the ancient Hebrew and Aramaic that's called the Akkad of Elohim, meaning the oneness, the unity, and the collectiveness of the gods and goddesses. It's called the Akkad of Elohim, meaning we are one. We ain't never been separated like they're trying to make it through this patriarchal system. You know, we've always been one. It's just bringing those things back to our remembrance, because we've been so brainwashed and programmed by what they wanted to put forth in this 3D matrix, the nonsense concerning it's all patriarchal. Everything that came in from the universe is all patriarchal, male dominated, male, influence. No. Our mother, our queen mother of the universe, is where all things started from and where all things are going to end. So 2026, as I was saying earlier, is the year of one. We're back one with her. The XX and XY are one again. The divine feminine and the divine masculine have come back together again. And that's what they're scared about more than anything else in this world. That we as the people, the primordial people that understand these things, we're coming back to the knowledge of self. The remembrance is coming back. The light bulb is coming back on. And that was a designed time for that, for us to go through a stage of darkness where we didn't see. But now we're coming back to the light. Because out of darkness, out of dark matter, our mother came the light. And we know within the light is what? Spectrums of colors. So, but it came out of the darkness. So I always tell people, when we start learning of ourselves and having knowledge of self, like we always talk about, we have to get back to the origins of who we are and where we came from. And it was damn sure not from this indoctrination in religion and in some parts of New Age spirituality. We did not come from none of that. We came from the original mother, the primordial mother, the mother of creation and civilization. And with that being said, I want to hear what Sister Chi got to say.
Indeed. And let me just tap on that really quickly before we bring in Sister Empress.
Yes,
you know what I mean? Saying with that black, you know what I'm saying, with that darkness, that goes back to black, being not a color itself, but a culmination of all colors. And all colors can be derived from that essence.
That's right.
So to add that in really quickly. Let me come over to Sister Empress. Let me come over to the Queen, and let's get some of that divine feminine.
All right. Well, thank you, my brother. Before I go into responding to some of what you all just said, and also the previous clip, one thing that I learned from Dr. Khalid, and it was interesting because he didn't mean it as a teachable moment, for at least not for me. He did it in order to just kind of give some clarity and put some things in place that need to be put in place. I shared with Brother Knowledge a couple of weeks back an experience that I had with Dr. Khalid Muhammad, and it was that he gave a public apology to me in regards to something that I had asked him to do, and he did not do it, and then later realized that that wasn't right, and he literally gave me a public apology in front of folk, and at that very moment, it became even clearer what I already knew about a real Black man, right? It became even clearer. And from that experience, I'm able now to even better determine genuineness, authenticity, things of that nature, a certain type of depth. And because he did that, he didn't have to do that, a public apology. He didn't have to do that, but he did for a reason. And it established not only a relationship, it also helped me to know better and that wasn't his intention, but that's how it ended up for me, to really know that a Black man, that's a real Black man, does not have a problem with recognizing something that they should have did, could have did, and in that, want to correct it. He did that. So people can talk about certain things, but again, one of the positions that I take now is to do what has to be done based on the mandate of our ancestors. And so while other people have, and you might have heard me say this again, but here it is coming to life again. Other people have manifest destiny, and we now have destiny that's manifesting. And so that was an example of that, the manifestation of things that have been talked about and said. Now, to fast forward, El, you right on point. All of you are on point with this idea, this concept or concepts of Blackness, and we're going to get more into that at another time. But the other component that I want to say that comes out of Black is, and you were saying the spectrum of color, but I'm going to go to another element and say truth. Truth comes out of the light.
Big truth and fact.
Right. And so that's a different kind of arena or different area, but yet that too, the light, the Blackness in that light part of it comes through and it brings forth truth. So that was one thing I wanted to share. The other thing I'm going to kind of reserve until we get a little later into the program, because one of the things that were impressed upon me this week as I was doing some of my research on some other things, you know, DC is getting ready to commemorate what they call Emancipation Day. And it dawned on me, you know, and I've heard that over the years, but I never really paid any attention to it. And then I actually looked closer at what that really was about. And this is why I tell people, you should never trust this government. Really. Never trust it. Because if you examine it closely, it will literally show you proof evidence of certain things. So I'm going to go back to that a little later on, because I want to make sure that as we proceed with repair, that we do move forward in a way where we know we can secure what it is we accomplish. So I'm going to stop there, and you brothers keep on moving on.
Indeed, indeed. Let me see if we have any comments. Let me come to our comments section here. All right. Peace. To the family. Peace to Sister J. Renee tapping in on our live on YouTube. All right. Much appreciated. Thank you for tapping in, Sister J. Renee. All right, family. All right, so with that being said, we're gonna be jumping into. Let me check real quick to see if there's anything on Facebook, any additions, any comments. Let me jump there real quick. Okay. All right, I'm not seeing any additions there. All right, but thanks for joining us, those on Facebook as well as those who tapped in with our stream on YouTube. All right, family. So with that being said, we're going to keep this ride rolling. All right, we're going to keep it going on the Ethereum, and we're going to jump into uh, some of the fixings for this evening. All right, we got all the fixings this evening, family. We always got the fixings, but whew, we got some heavy hitters. We got some heavy hitters in the building this evening, as far as our ancestors are concerned. Let me jump right into it. All right. So again, that's getting into some of the titles of this session for this evening. All right. So
Let's bring on the heavy hitters and wig splitters.
No doubt. I think I'm gonna start off with Brother Doe Jones, ancestor extraordinaire in Walimu. All right. And then we can jump into you know um the brother ancestor extraordinaire in Walimu, Steve Coakley. All right, we might close out on that note with this segment. All right, family. So And those Sister Empress and Brother Pollinator be able to add some further context, all right, as it pertains to this good brother here. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Now, as I was, pulling up the information, there was kind of a little bit of information that was being provided. All right, so I found that very interesting. But kind of par for the course at the same time, because they don't want a whole lot of information from this brother being exposed, as I am sure. All right, so let me just come here and let me read some of this information, and we're going to get into some of the proceedings this evening with ancestor Mwalimu extraordinaire, our good brother Del Jones. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen with you all, family. All right, let me share my screen, and let's get into some of this. Just good information, excellent information. All right, let me see. Let me share my screen here. Boom. Nope, that's not it. Hold on, here it is. Okay, screen share. Okay, where is it at? Here. Here it is, right here. That's it. Okay, should be seeing that on the screen currently. All right, ancestor Mwalimu extraordinaire Del Jones, also known as Nana Kuntu, was an was an American civil rights activist, author, and musician born in Idaho, California, 1941. He served as the USAF from 1958 to 1961 and later worked in various industries, including HVAC design. Began writing poetry in the early 1980s and has self-published 4 books. That is incorrect. He has over 6 books. I believe 7 to be exact. We'll get into that. His poetry has been featured in various publications, and he has recited poems at significant events, including the dedication of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Orlando, Florida. Del Jones' work continues to resonate with readers, and his contributions to literature and activism are remembered by many. All right, little short excerpt there. Let me go here. All right. Del Jones, also known as Nana Kutu, is a Philadelphia author who has made significant contributions to the cultural preservation of African identity. His book, Culture Bandits, delves into the themes of cultural theft and the impact of the music industry on Black artists. Del Jones has authored multiple books, including Showdown and Black Holocaust 2000, and is recognized for his efforts in promoting Pan-African identity. His work is available on platforms like Amazon and Thrift Books, where readers can find his books and gain insights into the cultural landscape. All right. Let me see here. Okay. And I think okay, yep, we're on the same page. Del Jones Cultural Bandits series is a critical exploration of the cultural theft and exploitation of African American culture products by European cultural imperialists. The series includes Culture Bandits 2, but also a lot of people forget there was Culture Bandits 3, with the later focusing the latter of the Culture Bandits 2 focusing on the annihilation of African images. Del Jones' work is praised for its in-depth analysis and commitment to Pan-African plight, making it a valuable resource for understanding the psychological damage that has been inflicted on future generations through the music industry and cultural products. All right. Now, when I went to look up our illustrious brother, okay, it was very, with the imagery, there was very little family. And, it went off and spun off into a whole bunch of other stuff. They did have the initial books, Culture Bandits 1 and 2. Those were premiere on the page. All right, as I began to scroll down, though, it started to get into a whole lot of hogwash, flim flam stuff. Okay, that had nothing to do with our brother Del Jones, ancestor Del Jones. All right, getting a whole bunch of stuff that was off beat. All right, let me see. I believe we have a video snippet here by
He's
our
also
brother,
known as the war correspondent.
also known as the war correspondent. Absolutely, absolutely. All right. Let me play a brief little clip in here from our good brother.
The car bookstore. Oh, Captain, greetings. Good to see all of y'all here. We know that y'all came a long way, so I'm not going to take any time, but I do want to let those of you know something about this black man that's sitting right here with us. Didn't take a lot of money to bring him here. The only thing that brought him here was his love for black people. As the brother said, he's published 2 books, Black Holocaust and Culture Bandits. Now, it may seem like divergent issues, but as we know, when a person has an identity, such as our identity as black people, when that identity is stripped away, when you're made to think the very nature of your own creation is somehow a gift or given from someone else, then you become a people of amnesia, a people who have no sense of self, and then easily wiped off the face of the planet, easily given to the Tuskegee experiment, easily given to the AIDS experiment, easily given to the NOR plant that's being given to our children right now in Baltimore. So this is a timely topic. The brother's going to reach back into hundreds of thousands of years. But we know we got so much to carry today. So I would like y'all to please stand up. Give our brother a hand. Mr. Del Jones. It is a pleasure to be here. The hospitality in here feels real good. It feels very dynamic in here. It feels extra good to me because after 3 years after writing Culture Bandits and the second book, Black Holocaust, this is the first black campus that has invited me. Strange, huh? I mean, I've been to Penn. I'm going to Emory University in Atlanta. I've been to Drexel. I've been to all these white colleges. And I'd like to thank the brothers and sisters from Delaware State for inviting me. And I will be back next week taking part in a panel discussion on the Black Nationalist Day. That's very strange to me, and that has been a painful experience because I'll always come home. You know what I'm saying? It don't take a whole lot of money to get me anywhere to deal with African people. However, what is it about black universities? What is it? When in fact, we are the people that are dying. We are the people who are tumbling downhill so fast, we don't even realize that we're moving. We don't even realize. Who is in between the information and the sufferer? Who's in between the information and the masses of our beautiful, loving, dynamic, soulful people? What is happening? What is going on? I say we're in the middle of a Holocaust. A black Holocaust. The continuation from the suffering from 640 AD. AD. No, we have to realize and understand clearly what is happening to us. We're so used to dying that we pay it no mind. We pay it no mind. We used to die. You can turn on the TV and see black children dying. That is unacceptable. To anyone that's acceptable to, you have to check your mental side. You have to check your mind. Whenever you can turn on CNN, and see a black baby held up like a chicken, dying right before our very eyes. Is our appetite for death so cultivated from watching Aliens, from watching Thundercats, from watching Tiny Toons, from watching Freddy, Nightmare on Elm Street, that now when real dying is delivered to us, We think it's a joke. We think it's a game. We think it does not affect our babies sitting next to us. No, but that ain't true. That is not true. It's all connected, you know. Every African in this world is connected. It's connected in the eyes of white supremacy. They hate us all equally, whether they can use you or whether they can't. This is just the beginning. We just want to paraphrase what we're going to talk about here, because we're talking about something very real. The threat to the African, the first man, the first lady to walk this earth. Now, did I say that? No, LSP Leakey and the Leakey family, the great anthropological family, did the research, and the information is in. We, the people darker than blue, was the first ones here. Chancellor Williams, our illustrious elder, who wrote the book Destruction of Black Civilization, passed while I was in Washington about a month ago. And he asked a very critical question. How did the great people, the African people, get from the pyramids to the project? How that? How that? The evidence is that we are who we claim to be. Oh, yes, we are. You know why? Our ancestors stamped our faces on the artifacts, not nobody else. End the discussion. Look at the Sphinx. That looked like my uncle, huh? Here in the United States or in Latin America, where we have the Olmec head, that the carbon dating proves are thousands of years old, they have our faces on it. So there's no question who we are. How did we get from such a dynamic, energized people, intelligent people, humanistic people, into the bottom rung of the ladder in every corner of this globe, where you can click on your television and watch us die, watch our babies die. However, we have an appetite for death cultivated by the white supremacists, control of the mass media.
All right, family. Let me go ahead and my screen share there. Okay, and just a snippet, a tidbit from our brother, the illustrious ancestor in Mwalimu, Brother Del Jones. All right. And let me just give a couple of the books, okay, that Brother Del Jones, Ancestor Del Jones authored. All right. Let me come there really quickly, and then I'm gonna come to you all for commentary. All right. Let me just get into some of these books, family, and you can see the trajectory that he was going in and some of the context and type of in-depth research that he was dealing with, okay, and the messages that he wanted to put forth to try to make sure that our people were well equipped and understanding on the plight that they're dealing with, the hows, whys, when, and wheres. All right, so if you can see my screen now, you might have to blow it up on your device. Okay, we have Showdown, we have Black Holocaust 2000. Okay, we have Invasion of the Body Snatcher. All right, High Tech Barbarians. Okay, we have the Black Holocaust Global. Okay, and of course we have Culture Bandits Volume 1, 2, and 3, family. All right. And I'm gonna while I go to the commentary from the panel. And now this let me just jump here real quick, okay? This is as I was going through the information, I did come across this imagery here. Oops, let me come back. I did come across this image here, view image. Okay. And just interesting, right? 3rd edition representation, family. This is a book. I'm not familiar with the author, whatnot, but I just thought that this was interesting. This popped up within the images of Del Jones, of ancestor Del Jones, representation, and why that is so important. Now the sister here is holding what I would presume to be a black Barbie doll, right? Now there was a famous test, right, of the doll test that was given to young black girls. I believe it was developed by a student in all actuality. Okay. And, it was the psychology of black girls and what they and how they associated beauty. All right. And with the representation and that they had been given, they were given the option and the choice of having to take what they would consider be the beautiful doll, and they had an option of a white doll and a black doll. And family, I want you to imagine the doll that they chose based on the indoctrination that they have received from this society, from a dominant, a Eurocentric male, patriarchic society. All right, you can guess which doll that they chose. All right, so representation, family, and why it is so important. I thought also, and I'm sure Brother Knowledge will come in and break some of this down as well. Even within the scope of the representation that is given here, although the sister is holding a black doll, with proper representation of who she is, the representation of the sister is still very Eurocentric and also very highly sexualized. So I just want folks to take note on that. Okay, let me stop my screen share there. Family. Okay. Let me see if I have one more addition before I come to. Yep, that's it. All right, let me come to the ethereal journalist. With that being said, okay. Oh, matter of fact, no, I got one more. My bad. Let me come to one more because this is something else. I found it was a plethora of different books, but I lost the page because it had other books that I would love to have referenced and to have shared as well. But this was one of the books I was able to recollect, and this also would put things into further context when we're talking about hip hop, right? And what what that has transformed into, and the reason being, okay. So with this book, we see here, this is entitled. Let me see if I can blow this up a little bit, but let me go to the title real quick. Who Stole the Soul? The Weaponization of Hip Hop, a historical and sociological perspective. Let me blow up that. Let me blow that up a little bit. I love the imagery, right? The graphics that the brother developed on this. Okay, so now all of these things are interconnected, family, and is not accidental nor coincidental. Let me come back to the ethereal journalist to have y'all weigh in on this subject matter. And shout out to the ancestor NYL Mudell Jones. I don't know who want to start it off, who want to kick it off, but I'm gonna come to the ethereal journalist for further additions.
Brother KBA, I know you got something to say. Let's say it.
I got a whole lot to say. I'm gonna follow up after you though.
There you go. I was going to ask you.
Slay. Get your slay on. You understand what I'm saying?
Man, I'm sort of like almost in tears over here because just seeing his face, man, on that podium, and knowing him as one of my babas, one of my brothers, my elder brothers that looked out for me and my partner Shafiq Saad Kaleem, we made the group Conscious Minds, as well as DJ Rocksteady, who actually did my the latest version of the neo soul version of Syphilis Tsunami. But we used to sit with his brother and him at the Know Thyself bookstore in Philadelphia, probably about maybe sometimes even once and twice a week. We used to get together with some other brothers and go through the books and just have sessions where we just, iron sharpening iron. And I was more like a sponge at that time. I was absorbing a lot of information because, you know, I looked at ancestor brother Gerald Jones as somebody that had that information. And I was in my early 20s or, you know, mid 20s or whatever, as well as my rap partner in Conscious Minds. So, you know, I was more of a sponge, man. And I learned so much from his brother and ancestor Dale Jones to the point where, you know, even talking about the book Invasion of the Body Snatchers, that's in that's in the new song that I put out, Syphilis Tsunami, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. You know, I catch you, you know, these are the things that were implanted in my mind that were pollinated from these brothers at Know Thyself Bookstore in Philadelphia, right there on Market Street, up near 52nd Street. So when I was looking at him on the podium, man, I almost went to tears, man, because that was one of my dudes. That was one of the ones that got me to where I was going with Conscious Minds, because we were at that time, and Sister Chi can also tell you, because she was working and had her business, Stillwalkers, right there on South Street. The community was striving with consciousness. You know, we were all in the I would say, in the search of who we are and to know ourselves better. And not outside of ourselves externally, but interiorly, within that internal tech knowledge, that real it. And that was part of my that was part of my journey, just being a part of Ancestor Dale Jones' life, as well as the Know Thyself Bookstore Club that we had at the time. And it just, oh man, I really can't really say too much more, because I'm sort of like looking at his picture or looking at that video with him, and it just it's memories are flooding back to my mind right now. You know, memories, man. And they're all good memories because it was all part of my journey. It was all part of my ethereal journey. Just getting that information, that knowledge, that wisdom from Ancestor Dale Jones, and moving forward to where I'm at today. So he was a bridge builder for me. He helped bring me across from, I would say, a little less consciousness to ultra consciousness, meaning always seeking to improve myself. Oh, I haven't arrived yet. Now, when I start bending reality, when I start looking at this 3D matrix and I start calling on the elements to work for us like the ancestors could do at one time, then you're going to know all the stuff that was implanted in me is going to come together, and it ain't going to be a pretty sight for a lot of people. And that includes you all, because the X-Men are coming. The X-Men are really here. It's just a matter of a few more, appointed times of divine timing, and we're going to be back to where we was before, where we could do like Yahusha did, where he said, peace be still, and the wind stopped. Or Elisha, who came with fire from the skies. You know, these are our bloodlines and our lineages, and we're getting back to that. But going back to my ancestor, brother Dale Jones, I just really can't say too much more about how much he's influenced me, because he was a major part of Conscious Minds when we were developing our rap group back in the early 90s. And I just appreciate the love and support that he always showed me. And with that being said, I gotta keep it moving, man. I just want to hear what everybody else got to say.
Absolutely. Once again, triple salute to the outstanding elder ancestor Nwalimu Dale Jones.
Yes, indeed. No.
All right. And with that being said, let me pass the mic round robin. Let me pass it to Sister Empress next on that note.
All right. Well, I got bumped off for a moment there, but I'm back. But of course, yeah, I knew Baba Dale, definitely we worked together. And he was one of the few journalists that made it very clear that he was in full support of the fight for Brother Mumia Abu Jamal. So as it had been said earlier, he was known as the war correspondent. And of course, he did know Brother Mumia as well. So, I mean, I have so many remembrances and stories, because we were rebel rousers coming up in the struggle. And and he also did book signing at Stillwalkers. I think Brother El mentioned Stillwalkers. That was the name of boutique and center and so forth and so on. So Dell did, of course, do book signings there. But, you know, that kind of spirit that he had and has, shall I say, this for me is kind of what's missing in the movement today. Folks have a lot of information. They've read some books, they saw some stuff on TikTok or Instagram or YouTube, but do not have the actual spirit of these things. And this was what Del Jones and others encompassed. It was just such a part of their being. And so it wasn't just about the books that they read or the other kinds of things. It was a way of living, you see. And so, again, he's definitely missed, but it also shows us the work that we have before us and making certain that we bring forward those types of spirits to a greater extent. And again, I think you brothers already know that and are doing that. And I feel very, very strongly that in the very near future, others are going to see what we've been talking about.
Indeed.
No doubt, no doubt.
All right. And with that being said, let me come to Brother Knowledge Born Allah.
I was praying with all my being that it was somebody else on here and I ain't have to follow after Doc Empress and Almighty El Pollinator. But God saw fit. She was like, nah, son, go do your work. I was like, all right. Our eternal souls are intertwined with those who stood how we stand. Almighty El Pollinator knows that Nana Kuntu, known to the world as Baba Del Jones, the war correspondent, one of his chief things was proper propaganda versus improper propaganda. So he would always talk to the artists and the creatives and create spaces where the righteous from amongst us, from that creative aspect, could be seen and heard by the world. His deep study in regards to chronicling these culture bandits, now these folks are talking about culture vultures, because if they say culture bandits, people will have to go back to Nana Kuntu. They will have to go back to him. You understand what I'm saying? So the countless hours in time that he dedicated to research and to study and to put forth this information so fluidly, he was slick with it. You understand what I'm saying? He would get in that zone and you ride with him. He'd be like, yeah. His military mind don't get enough credit. His military strategic lay of the battlefield for our minds. You heard him say menticidal, right? Dr. Bobby Eugene, right? Peace and blessings be upon him. He said that because it's a war for your mental. It's a war for your genetic memory, okay? Doc Empress was just talking about the eternal essence in that regard. Once they get inside of your psyche, they're inside of your spiritual DNA. Once they get inside of your psyche, they get inside of your spiritual DNA. So now they're affecting you etherically. So your etheric ancestors and your etheric presence, folks in the present, in the physical, and in the future, is affected by that. This is what that nanotechnology was in, what it was seeking to alter your physical DNA structure, with that jab. You understand what I'm saying? So it was a man who cared enough about us, who was sent to us by the divine mothers to be able to impart something in a voice that we were so readily able to hear. You understand what I'm saying? Because as we know with our own Doc Empress, when our women come amongst us, you got these males and these rats and these snakes and these damn eunuchs out here that seek to silence that voice. Or they try to position themselves in a manner where which they can take credit and credence for what mother has given us. You understand what I'm saying? But like the scripture says, for unto us a child is born, and he was one of those children. He was one of those children who predicted the takeover and the S-hop. I ain't gonna curse in front of Doc Empress, but y'all know the word I'm talking about. That S-hop that would come and usurp this thing that was so black, that was so melanated, that was too black, too strong, and that they would utilize these bastard bandits to take over the culture. He predicted them. He said what happened with Vanilla Ice and the Beastie Boys and all of them. He did not shy away from those things. And then he said they would make one that would usurp the throne, and we would necessarily be looking at him, and he could never be blotted out of history. So all them circuit jerks and all them failed experiments were strategic. So they put one in front of you, and now the people, you can't say anything about this little monkey. You understand what I'm saying? You can't say nothing about him, like you can't say something about that subset of the people that was supposed to be subjugated. All right. So they're intertwined because they are his handlers, right? They are his handlers, and they maneuver him. But Baba Nana Kuntu gave us a warning, so we knew what the framework looked like, and we were the town criers in that regard, and it was looking at us like we was crazy. So they kept drinking that Kool-Aid, that cyanide Kool-Aid, and falling asleep. So we had folks that would give us a bright light and a shot, because as we transition to Baba Steve Coakley, y'all know I'm going to be on fire. You understand? Because these two worlds have intersectionality in that regard. You understand what I'm saying? And if y'all knew Baba Steve, when every time he came to Philly, he was a different dude. Let me tell you. Nowhere else on the planet. There was something about Philly and something about Baltimore that brought out an essence and a side from him where he understood the level and the lane of the battlefield and how it goes. So now think about that in essence, as Brother Lamoon puts Black Holocaust on the screen. Who is there to speak to our Holocaust? You understand what I'm saying? Dr. Khalil Abdul Muhammad, peace and blessing be upon him, made it plain. Made it plain, and they ran from him. You understand? Bobby Dow Jones, in the same way, they ran from him. Bobby Steve Coakley, in the same vein, they ran from him. But who lives to survive the fight? Who deals with the pain of the birth and life? And who gives the genetic from the emotional, the etherical, the mental, and the physical DNA? Who is that? Y'all were talking about the chromosomes earlier. You know, that X and Y chromosome. Who gives the X? Who gives up the X for you to have it? And why we don't honor her in the way that we should honor her, and why we find ourselves in the void, in the depths of the damn darkness with sin, disease, and death because of it. And they still won't admit it. But she don't need them to admit it. She need them to repent and repair before they get removed. You understand what I'm saying? So blessings and honors to Baba Dale Jones. I know him as Nana Kuntu. I don't know Dale Jones. I never met him. You understand what I'm saying? I know him as Nana Kuntu because once we reform and we reshape and get that calling of those words being called upon them, it's kind of like a disrespect to call them who they once was. Call them who they are, because Nana Kuntu still is in existence with us. Dale Jones left in the physical, while in the physical when he changed his name and took on that moniker of Nana Kuntu. You see what I'm saying? So he was the war correspondent, and he continues to be the war correspondent. Last thing I'll say on that is Dude Knowledge Radio is named in that honor. I have one who was there with me, who was out in the trenches working with the babies, and I named him the war correspondent. I named him the war correspondent in Baba Nana Kuntu's honor, because he was one that was out there reporting live in the cities of Flint, in the cities of Detroit, and everywhere that he went, he gave us a report, a battlefield assessment and report in regards to that. So I saw that and I was like, yeah, you the war correspondent. You understand what I'm saying? So that became something that he continues to wear, even with the struggles that he faces, you know, with his family and his children. So again, if we allow these non-ether beings, I don't even call them other non-ether beings, to continue to dictate as they transition to transhumanism, they're taking our consciousness to affect all of our timelines, past, present, and future. So with that, I yield.
I say.
Right. Right. I have one other thing I wanted to add because
Mm-hmm.
connection to writing and artistry is very important. And I don't know because I got bumped off a little while back, so I don't know if this was mentioned, but Brother Del Jones was also a musician, an
Oh yeah.
artist.
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
And so again, there was and still is a time period where all of these things kind of really came together. And I mean, not just now and then or partially, this was literally a part of the whole thing. And not just the so-called Black arts movement. That too, you could see it there. But this was a part. Folks who were involved in liberation stuff, injustice stuff, it just was in hand. That you were also doing something else in terms of the art in many instances. And if not directly, you certainly, were embracing it to a great extent. But again, many were doing freedom fighting stuff, but also writing poetry, music, performing. These things were all connected. And so now it's like, okay, you just do one thing and that's it. And for me, this is why and how our movements began to fall apart or to dissipate, because the essence of what our movements were about and are about, people are not embracing that. And you even see that even when you go back into the 40s and the 50s, when you see and hear people like John Coltrane and Pharoah Sanders and others. And see, that's why I tell people when they say, well, I wasn't around then. I wasn't around then either. But when you study our history and culture, you're going to see some very similar things and consistent things. You'll see growth and development. But you're going to also hear that resistance stuff. Abby Lincoln, Max Roach. So you saw the evolution of what was being called jazz or whatever at some point. But then you saw where it started to go in other directions and really emphasizing freedom. Max Roach wrote something called Freedom Suite. Right, with Abby Lincoln. So I'm saying again, and again, that I wasn't around at that time, y'all. So I'm saying it behooves us to make certain that we always do the research.
You were around. You were probably in a different avatar.
Well, you know what I mean. See, and I split it that way because when I have conversation with people, I don't get into this ageism thing. I get into where your mind can take you or where you're at in there. That's what determines for me how I'm going to deal with you, not what's on your birth certificate in terms of age.
Big truth, big facts.
Right. I mean, and so we got to get out of this European structure of, well, this is when you are an elder when you turn 60 or 65. No. I mean, you might be a senior in their world, right, but we're giving people kind of reference points that don't necessarily deserve it or shouldn't have it, based on somebody else's psychology or philosophy. But anyway, I digress. Going back to Brother Dell. So again, I encourage everyone to, when you get the opportunity, there's a couple of things still online that he did. I think it's what his Bandcamp, I think it is. You might be able to find it. But again, there's some things still online of his music. And of course, you're not going to be familiar with it because it was kind of like funk for that era, for that time period, right? We're talking like the 80s and therefore. But he also did like rap as well. Yeah. It wasn't called rap then, but he did rap.
Yeah, too. He did. He sounded like Jocko. He sounded like Jocko Henderson sometime when he used to rap.
Exactly. And so, a lot of people are not going to know who Jocko Henderson is. You know that, right, Al, unless you was in Philly. But anyway.
Oh, yes, that's true. One of the original rappers, right?
Right. But you got to be in Philly or around nearabouts to know about Jocko. So anyway, Jocko Henderson. But anyway, so again, I encourage everyone to go check out some of that music, because he did something called the Black. Oh gosh, I don't remember the Black something. I forget exact what it was, but I'm just saying, even then, the language, the information, the feeling of our music, he exemplified that. So of course he did that with his writing. Needless to say, he developed that skill, enormously. But he also had other skills too.
He was multidimensional. He did the rap, the hip hop, it was called rap back then. He did spoken word, a musician. I mean, he was multi-talented, multi-dimensional. And I mean, it's like he was an amazing human being, or I'd say ethereal being. He was an amazing one. Yep.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if you're checking out the screen right now, this is actually one of his albums. I flashed this a little bit previously, but this is actually him in his b-boy stance on the left-hand side, and his photographs with his partner, musical partner, and also on the right-hand side, you see one of the album, the back covers. All right, so this is Del Jones, Positive Vibes. Court is closed. All right, you can find this, as Sister Empress said, on Bandcamp. There's also these snippets that are actually on YouTube. All right, so this information is available. All right, and you can find it, family. All right, that's Brother Del Jones right here on the in this last picture on the right hand side to the far right in his b-boy stance. All right.
He was rocking one of the 5 elements of hip hop. One of the 5 elements.
So it's
a good little graffiti too in the background too. Yeah.
See how y'all be starting? See how y'all be starting? I be trying to behave over here.
So, you know what I'm saying? And that's what we call being holistic, family. You know what I mean? Not being one-dimensional, not being trapped in a box. All right. So don't let folks trap you in a box, and don't trap yourself in a box. You can be dynamic, you can be multi-dimensional, and you should be, expressing yourself fully and completely.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any now I'm gonna go and I'm going to give you the imagery of his books, the series. I'm gonna give you the book series, and I just want y'all to pay attention to 2 things. I want y'all to pay attention to the graphics, and I would like y'all to pay attention to the verbiage, the messaging or the themes of the books that were being shared, and then how we can connect some of these dots together, family, and the message that information that he was presenting and how he was presenting it. All right, so let me go ahead and share this real quick one time. Family, this is volume 1, Culture Bandits. Okay. And so you see the war correspondents, you see Elvis. I think this is the Beatles here. And then you got Kenny G. All right, family. So just peep game and see what's being conveyed here. This is a lineage of Culture Bandits. All right, let's go to Culture Bandits 2, Annihilation of African Images. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That those words have a resonance and a frequency. Annihilation of African images, and this is the process of the elimination of our culture. Okay, of
break it down, Cap. He getting busy now. Let him work, yo. Let him work. He getting busy.
No, I was just gonna say, and mind you, they didn't have the technology we have now to do these type of imageries and visuals.
Somebody drew it.
Somebody had to draw that thing, put some love into that thing, right?
Let me cook though. Let me cook.
Yeah, let him work.
This is the process of enculturalization of our culture, right? So we can be estranged to our true essence, right? You attack first of all, you try to come in and conquer our culture, right? You're thieves and bandits. Then you come in and annihilate our positive imagery, right? Disconnecting us from our essence, okay? And then in volume 3, family, volume 3, so important because this is what's happening today. So, brother ancestor Imwalimu Del Jones was also a soothsayer, right? He was an oracle because you see, he is predicting the attacks and how it will manifest in present day. And this is what we have going on right now. Sex prisoners. Bandits 3. Now, if you see the imagery, and what is being portrayed as far as Black people is concerned, and how we're being presented currently, this is what is going on. You know what I mean? You got the transformation of the high tide Venus. You got the video vixens. You got everybody. You got the slut walk. You know what I'm saying? You got everybody being super sexualized. You know what I'm saying? You got, the pushing of pornography. You got, the alpha males versus the independent woman, sex prisoners. Let me stop my screen share there, family. The 3-book series.
Well, you threw alley hoop on that one, boy.
Let's go.
You threw alley hoop by bringing them images and breaking them bad boys down. You cooked them bad boys like gumbo in the pot.
Hey, I'm telling you, he ain't leave nothing. No bones, nothing. You understand what I'm saying? That's why I was like, oh, he a mid-cook. He a mid-cook. Let him cook. You understand?
There ain't no corn on the cob. None.
And all of the imagery that we love that was attractive to the eyes that went on with the real Black Arts movement and not that stuff that was co-opted where they put them punks and them sissies out there in front of us and made it seem like they were the Renaissance. That was the Redevelopment that we saw. You understand what I'm saying? Like they started attacking you through the arts because they wanted to take and leave a distraction or a detraction away from the Black liberation movements that were happening. You see what I'm saying? So the social consciousness and the social awareness, we know exactly who those bandits are. They're the vultures now. You understand what I'm saying? So that little snake that was in the garden is now the dragon. You understand what I'm saying? So the fire breathing dragon, and they got these flaming folks that's out here that ain't cherubims. They're flaming. You understand what I'm saying? And they're pushing it through that imagery of the forgotten. So now it tracks in regards to what this is in regards to the crisis of identity. So all of the disconnection from mother, back to what I was saying earlier, so from this capstone that she gives you the rule to throne, to Mother Africa, to the imagery and the chemical, genetic, and spiritual makeup of the Black family, all from her womb, right? You're disconnecting yourself. You see what I'm saying? So now they want you to have these cesareans in this regard. So you start to look at Caesar and these cesareans. You understand what I'm saying? I told you I'm on my best behavior, Doc Empress in the building. But when they disconnect you and they cut you out of mother's womb, the job on the plantation, on the sex farms, was for you to reproduce. But if you were a buck that they deemed worthy of annihilation, they cut your belly open, took the baby out, and black boot stomped the baby in front of your face to keep you in control. You understand what I'm saying? So this Caesar mentality that we have going on, and if you look at the Planet of the Apes movie, that guy's name was Caesar. You understand what I'm saying? So that monkey that got all the apes together to rebel, his name was Caesar. So we're dealing with the Caesar haircut, and we're dealing with the cesarean of all things to call this interruption of life, right? That is something that they hyperdimensionalize through the arts, and they push through these fake movements that they call Black arts movements, and fake movements that they call the Harlem Renaissance. You understand what I'm saying? Because they were bootlegging and they were stealing the intellectual property and made the record industry. So the imagery that we loved on the Earth, Wind, and Fire covers and things were a staunch rebellion to re-Africanize the minds and the hearts of our people and get us back to the realm of the ethers. So this is our ethereal journey out of the ashes and rising like the phoenixes that we are. And he represented that wholeheartedly.
You got chills running down my spine, brother KBA. You know, it's funny because even in the movie Sinners, it talks at the beginning about the griots and the Choctaw and how they used music to communicate with their ancestors, to communicate with themselves, and the whole essence of one of the biggest universal laws, the law of rhythm. You know, they took those laws of rhythm and they flipped them around and re-scripted them and then sold us back their version of rhythm. Their nonsense, their evil seeded rhythm patterns that they wanted us to be on, those frequencies and those vibrations, those radiations, those wavelengths. They flipped it on us. So I say that to say, you know, when we look at the law of rhythm, we are the original muses. We are the ones that created music from the ethereal realm all the way down to this 3D matrix simulation that we're currently engaging in. So I just want people to continue to let music be more universal, at least the good parts of what we know music comes from, because we are the original muses. And we are the ones that know how to take a music. It's just like David the psalmist. He would use music in order to give praises to the Most High. He would use music in order to show the people that we are here to praise and give glory and honor and worship to our mother who bore us, who gave us the opportunity to come down here and use these talents and these gifts to continue to raise the consciousness of our people. And even raise the consciousness of the nations that will embrace it for its righteousness, not the evil stuff that they're doing right now in Hollywood with it or in the music industry. So I'm just going to, just wanted to input that little piece into it, but we can continue on this beautiful journey with Brother Dale Jones and what we got next on the menu.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And we do have our ancestor coming up next. The late great Mwalimu Baba Steve Coakley. Now I'm gonna come to you all, dear journalists, because I do not want to do him a disservice. Do y'all want to continue down that path now, or would y'all like to save that for? Because we're gonna have to do a part 2, family. You're gonna have to do a part 2. We thought we could have it all in one session, but it was just too much information for us to contain in one episode. So, should I do an intro on here? And then we continue with Baba Ancestor and Mwalimu Steve Coakley on the next episode, or do y'all want to push through with the information on Ancestor Steve Coakley on this one?
We need a vote, right?
Yeah.
I definitely don't want to do him no disservice because that's another major influencer of my mentality. We definitely can't do him no disservice. Right. I say we push that one to the next episode, part 2.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Sister Chi?
Yeah, we can, because we're going to be doing something on Saturday also for New Day, so we can kind of tie it in.
Okay. All right. Excellent. All right. So maybe I'll just play like a snippet of clip, just to give people a taste. And then we can come in for the next episode and continue in that same vein, and giving that good information, and just be able to pass on that energy and essence from our ancestors, so we can put things in proper perspective of today.
A preview of things to come.
Yes, indeed.
And hopefully, Brother Knowledge will share with us, because he introduced us to a brother that's going to be coming on New Day on Saturday. So maybe Brother Bourne can also share with us a little bit about the brother who will be with us on Saturday, because that is actually Baba Steve Coakley's ancestral day, Saturday.
Big facts. Okay. All right. So let me see. With that being said, let me see if I can just grab a little snippet, right, of the late great ancestor Mwalimu Steve Coakley. All right. All right. Let me share my screen here, family. Let me share my screen here. Give me 1 second. Okay, here it is. Share screen. On. Okay. Here we go. Is this it? There it is. Boom. That's it right there. Boom. Okay, cool. All right. Should be sharing the screen currently. Okay. And here we have it. Let me refresh this. All right. All right. Here is our good brother Steve Coakley, ancestor Mwalimu. Okay. Now, unfortunately, this this excerpt also does not have a lot of information. You know, of course, I dug in and got some more insights. But we see here they have a short excerpt. Ancestor Malibu Baba Steve Coakley was an American political researcher and lecturer who lectured nationally on political and economic issues, especially as pertains to Black American communities. All right, let me go further. Uh, okay, coming up slow. Okay, here we go. Right. Okay, so this is the brother here. Let me
For tonight.
I want to play a short clip you know, just on some of the presentation, right, that he was able to provide the representation. All right, so let me, yeah, here it is right here. Let me go right here. All right, let me go right here. Okay, that should be loading shortly. And just a quick.
In America. White supremacy is the problem. Jews just happen to be white. I think Irving shows a good example of the immaturity possessed by many Jews who overreact and, shall we say, disrespect blacks' legitimate concerns regarding Jews. It appears as if people like Irving have a certain level of immaturity that they just can't imagine that a person that talks as illegitimate as he talks is not in some form disrespectful. Or shall we say, so peewee that he isn't even worth responding to.
But Mr. Coakley, you can't blame him for reacting when you get up before an audience and read a statement, I don't care where it comes from, to the effect that Jewish doctors are inoculating black kids with AIDS.
Well, I think what you ought to do is look to the New York Times, which talked about the doctors in Zaire who got an agreement with Mobutu to shoot up black people. This ethnic weapons program is being used all over the world. Unfortunately,
Mr. Coakley, you mentioned the ethnic weapons program. How much of the problems in the black community of Chicago are the blacks' own fault?
Well, white supremacy is the main problem in our community.
How much of the problems are your own fault?
Excuse me, if we resolve white supremacy, we will resolve the problems of unemployment. We will resolve the problems of bad housing. The Reagan administration probably represented the epitome of white supremacy by cutting into every domestic livable program that whites and blacks had, especially poor people, and they showed their relationship with these people by proving their insensitivity.
Now, Mr. Coakley, you've attacked Jesse Jackson, you attacked the late Mayor Harold Washington, you called what black leaders, political leaders in this country do you respect?
Well, I think politics has a way of accommodation. I don't think we have true political leaders in the sense of that you're going to find purity in politics. Politics is about accommodation and compromise. When our black leaders go into politics, as was discussed recently in Harper's Magazine, blacks have to prove to whites that they will protect their interests first. That's why politics is not the type of game that we're going to continue to invest all our time in, because it's proven that it doesn't work. Politics will not whip white supremacy, but clear, accurate, documented challenges to white supremacy, as well as action, grassroots action, taking against the forces of white supremacy. I thought it was often strange. Okay.
Mr. Coakley, we have to take a break for a commercial. Mr. Levin's the same. We'll be back in just a minute. heard what Mr. Coakley said, and you don't agree with him, and I don't agree with him. I don't think Pat agrees with him. But aren't you taking this to the limits when you call him names on this program and when you make the remarks you make about violence?
You know, I got to tell you something. I really had tremendous reservations about coming on this program with him because, as Pat said, you're building him up. Nobody would know what he is, animal, vegetable, or mineral, but we're building him up. So the fact is, you've got to call him exactly what he is. I would like to ask him, if I may, why is it that every night in Los Angeles, there's a mini Holocaust going on here, and it's got nothing to do with white racism. We have black kids killing black kids over cocaine, over other kinds of dope and paraphernalia. Why isn't he here? Why isn't this Farrakhan fellow here trying to stop the black on black carnage that's going on in this nation? Black raving gangs traveling throughout this nation, killing other black people.
All right, Mr. Coakley, answer him.
Well, since you gave him the privilege to ask a question, and I then will expect the same privilege subsequent to that, I think it's very clear that black on black crime and other syndromes in the black community are what black people do when they don't understand who the enemy is. Part of the problem with the tapes that were heard by those who played them was that in those tapes were names of very prominent people. It talked about the Trilateral Commission, the Council on Foreign Relations, the Bilderberger Group. It talked about those things. It talked about, no, we're not that immature. I don't believe in the word conspiracy. As a researcher, it's my job to present the best evidence. I think that the best evidence is what should go forward, and that you all ought to grow up enough to be able to dialogue with blacks who have legitimate concerns, who just so happen may have been trained by you, who understand your pathologies well, and who would expect you to step up for the dialogue rather than to continue to stoop down. I think Urban is a stooper. Now, Urban, I'd like to ask you, what positive contribution have you made in the last 20 years of your life to have added something to this problem of black-Jewish relationships, rather than to be the manipulator that you are? So obviously, you're not on this show for any positive contribution.
Well, I'll tell you.
Just what is your game?
I'll tell you exactly what I did. And perhaps I'm foolish for it now because I realize where you're coming from. I went down south to Forsyth County, Georgia, and I marched with about 25,000 beautiful people, both black and white. And thank God you weren't there, because my stomach would have turned and I would have had to throw up all over you.
If you don't know that I wasn't there.
Well, I didn't see you, and thank God I didn't. Because if I hadn't done anything in the last 20 years except stand up to animals like you, then there's a place in heaven for me.
Well, see, what's the problem with the black-Jewish relationships across the country now?
You're the problem.
We have
you are the problem.
That there has been no violence on the part of blacks towards whites, probably even though there's reason for some violence. And I think by exacerbating the racial tensions,
what do you got against
I hope that you all know, Pat and Mr. Braden, that on the national level in Congress, there's an attempt to pass anti-group defamation laws. In fact, Newsweek on June 6th did an article about it, where out of Hofstra University has come the desire to outlaw racial slurs. And those people that were alluded to in the article said that they were going to spend this summer setting the climate to make it possible to outlaw racial slurs and make a gentleman like myself a criminal, though I've never been arrested in my life. Well, so it appears as if we're being used to set the climate in America.
Mr. Coakley, what gestures have you made toward racial understanding and equality?
Well, first, it should be said that during the time that I was in the mayor's office, not one single person accused me of abusing the power that I had within my control. In fact, it strikes me as strange. The Jewish Federation in Chicago used to pass confidential documents to me to take to the mayor prior to anyone even seeing them. That surely doesn't sound like a person who was mistrusted. And I could tell you that in Chicago, we're coming forward with blacks who really represent the black community and disregarding those blacks chosen by Jews for these dialogue ventilation sessions. We're coming forward with some real leadership. We're coming out to propose a research project where we can go back to the beginning of time and trace the relationships between blacks and Jews to assess just where this problem started. It didn't start in the civil rights movement. It didn't start in the early 1900s when they started the NAACP and the Urban League. It started back in the beginning of time. And unless we have this study, we won't resolve the conflict.
You know, I'd like to say it started with people like Jesse Jackson and people like Coleman Young and people like this fellow, Mr. Coakley.
That's
people who are jealous of Jews. The reason there is black Jewish fighting today is because these blacks are jealous of Jews. And that's the only reason.
Well,
quite frankly,
you
can't make it and we can.
Well, quite frankly, Irvin, even in Israel, Sephardic Jews who are of color are also discriminated against by European and Soviet Jews. I think this problem is bigger than we ever assessed. And Jews, especially white Jews, have a problem.
All right, family. There we have it. Just a snippet of some of the information, research, and so on and so forth that was brought forth by our great ancestor, Mwalimu Steve Coakley. All right. And, you know, as he was being kind of bombarded on several different fronts, he was able to hold his own and present the information necessary to make his points. All right. Let me go ahead and stop my screen share there. All right. So this is a snippet, clip it on our great ancestor, Mwalimu Baba Steve Coakley. Let me come to the ethereal journalist for any weigh-ins on that before we get ready to close out for this evening's program. All right.
Woo! Well, for me, that spoke for itself. I mean, what I can't say much more after all of that, because that was exactly what it was. It was brilliant, clear, hard-hitting. No, it was more than hard-hitting. It was kick butt stuff. I mean, OMG. What can I say?
I would dare to say that is, as Brother Pollinator would put it, that's that MIC, that maximum impact collision.
Yeah.
On the MIC, baby.
Let me and any commentary, any addition, Brother Pollinator?
Oh man, you know, first of all, you know, the truth is being told now because this is the year of revelation, you know, the unveiling of the truth. And a lot of things that he had to confront at that time were not pretty much privileged within the news media as much as it is now, where original Hebrews, or those from the Shemitic bloodlines and lineages, are coming out and saying, some of you all may be not who you say you are. I'm not anti-Semite, but I am pro-Shemite because I know the bloodlines and lineages of most of the people from Africa, from at least the west coast of Africa, who are from the tribe, the U tribe, the Ashanti, the Limba, the Bantu, and the Ibu. They are the real. If you take their blood and you measure it, they have more Hebrew in them than the ones that call themselves Semites. So I'm not trying to say they destiny swapped and got away with 400 years of nonsense, but it's all coming out now. Ain't nobody going for the okie doke and none of that nonsense anymore. Because many times the things that we create, nations come in and they destiny swap with us. They take our original ideas, our creative things, and then they reappropriate it, repackage it, and then they try to put it back out and sell it to us as they were the ones that were from those situations. And in this case, the Shemite, there's a difference between a Shemite and a Semite. Like I said, I ain't anti-Semite. Y'all can claim to be what all y'all want, and you could claim to be from the land of Judea. But last time I remember, back during that time, the land of Judea was mostly inhabited by melanated, carbonated people. So the truth is coming out. And that's why Hollywood is scrambling around and they're scared right now, because they know that the true people that were of the ancient scrolls, the Dead Sea Scrolls on up, and even further back to the ones that even collaborated with the nation of Kemet, the brothers that like Joseph who went to Kemet, who learned how to be a Kemet, to learn Egyptian society, and he ended up becoming a governor, or even Moshe, who became a prince of Egypt, and even Yahusha, who went there and became one of the highest orders of the initiates of the Egyptian mystery systems, because they could identify with each other because they were all melanated and carbonated beings, and they understood the basic principles of the primordials and where we come from. So I'm not going to argue with somebody that claims to be a Semite, because that is not who we are. We are the original indigenous Shemitic bloodlines and lineages of the earth, of all parts of the earth. And with that being said, I'm going to pass the mic to Brother KBA, or unless Sister Chi got some more to say.
I got to add Sister Chi back to the stage. She came off the stage. Let me add her back in.
Make sure she's good to go. You know,
I'm about to say, yeah, check your camp.
Yeah,
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Bet. There you go. We on the same page, brothers.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Synchronicity. All right. Yeah. I'm not sure. Sister Empress, you had anything more to add to that before we come to Brother KBA?
No, not really, brothers. I just wanted to, since El mentioned something, I just wanted to bring to his attention, or bring to everyone's attention, that we had a conversation a few weeks ago, and I mentioned one of my teachers here in Philly was a brother by the name of Dr. Rudolph Windsor. So for those who are not familiar with him, you may want to check him out. He wrote a book called From Babylon to Timbuktu. So again, just a little sidebar there.
Beautiful info.
Merry Wives of Windsor.
Indeed. All right, let me come to brother Knowledge. Any additions on this?
I don't know if y'all left nothing for me, but I'm gonna do my best. You understand what I'm saying? Y'all was cooked to fry. You understand? These Google translations and stuff that Skynet be having put out, you know, they don't capture anything. So Nataki Coakley, the late Steve Coakley's ex-wife, was the reason for his spark and love of Africa and African people. She was the one who went to Africa. She was the one that was dealing with all of the work. She was the one that created the global perspective, and he gave us the view and lens from after discovering this plot with the Zionists and the AIDS epidemic. He risked his life, he risked his livelihood, he risked his position and all of those things to tell us what they were doing on the African continent. The outbreak before the outbreak. So they came out with the film Outbreak, but they didn't tell you that they were really doing this with the outbreak. The Tuskegee to the Philadelphia experiment, this is what they were really doing. You understand what I'm saying? And he was connecting those dots. Every time I hear our African retributionary minister of information speak, whether it's old, whether it's new, whether I've seen it, whether I heard it, it encapsulates the essence of his work. 5,000 lectures. I want y'all to hear me. 5,000 lectures. 5,000. So Skynet and Google and Gemini, none of them folks is ever going to tell you about your heroes and your sheroes in the way that they need to be told. They're a point of reference, but they have to point you to a point. 5,000 lectures. Do you know how many hours it takes of study, of research for him to build? His son gave me an account of how long he would sit in the windowsill going through papers, going through books, going through papers, going through books, like 16, 18 hours to prepare for one lecture and to put all of these things together on the microfiche and then the overhead projector and all this other stuff, going to places where people would give you crumbs to come there. You know, he went from a prime, and Doc Empress is back, I'm sure she'll understand this. He went from a prime lecturer to the backwash of the lectures once he was deemed by the Zionists as anti-Semitic. They shut down him coming to campuses, all kinds of places. You understand what I'm saying? They had big budgets for him originally, right? And then they started to closing the doors. So y'all heard Nana Kunchu echoing the same sentiments. The people that claim they're supposed to be in position, like that Boule figure sign, that Sigma Pi Phi situation. He cannot just be relegated to that alone. But he was telling you that there are collaborators that are working in tandem with our enemies for our destruction and devolution. You understand what I'm saying? So he gave that essence, and he spoke to all of the social ills, all of the maladies, and he did the computation analysis. You understand what I'm saying? And then he gave us the mathematical formula for military intelligence. Intention plus capability equals threat. Intention plus capability equals threat. He said, Koki want to go free South Africa. He ain't got enough money for no plane ticket or no passport. Zero threat. You understand what I'm saying? So intention plus capability. You have to be in essence of the place in the space that meets that mind of intention that you had, that your behind can actually catch. You know, they told us back in the day, don't let your mouth write a check that your behind can't catch. You understand what
No
I'm saying?
doubt.
So equals threat. So he had the intention and capability to understand the science, to understand the military strategy, to see what was happening live on the battlefield. Last week we were talking about this situation in regards to the classrooms, right? The Troops to Teachers program was revamped and shaped. They were disbanded and brought back out, disbanded and brought back out, disbanded and brought back out from the 80s into the 90s, all the way into the 2000s, right? So the face way of painting a picture like we would see that movie Red Dawn, you saw a black veteran in the classroom. You understand what I'm saying? So they showed you this connection to what it is, but how they would have these folks let loose in the classroom. And they also don't forget the DARE program and what that meant. You understand what I'm saying? There were no student school resource officers in the school prior. So the infiltration via DARE, and then the school resource officers and what their job is, and patrol and control. So you're going through metal detectors and pat downs and all of these things. You understand what I'm saying? They were saying there's a TSA shortage at the airport, but there ain't no school resource officer shortage in our schools. You see what I'm saying? So this is the military industrial complex invasion to further illustrate the school to prison pipeline in that regard. And he was a forewarner. He was a forewarner on the local, the city, the state, and the national and the global assault on the black family. And he gave us and empowered us with the spirit of discernment and the spirit of the Bogart. You understand? So he gave us a computation analysis on what was necessary to be able to recognize these pitfalls and these traps, these collaborators and dissenters, and how to properly look at media, properly look at information to be able to discern. So he's one who was sorely missed, but some of his lectures are still available. As y'all spoke about on the 11th, I'll be live with the guests that will be with y'all on New Day Resurrection in the nighttime with Steve Coakley Jr.'s son. So that's why I said, Brother Lumumba, I'm gonna give him that image. You understand what I'm saying? Give him that image as the black think tank over in Ghana. So I don't know what time it's gonna be in Ghana, but he's gonna be up with us because that is the essence of what he has created over there in his father's honor, and also in his mother's honor. Unfortunately, Robert Steve never got the chance to go to Africa, so his likeness, his image and his likeness, when you see him, you see the father. The father and him are one. Spitting damn image. You understand what I'm saying? Got a chance to not only go over to Ghana to live, but to thrive and to be part of the moves that are being making in regards to that right of return essence. He's been critical on the ground in regards to that as well. So uniting the two worlds, uniting the two hemispheres together in that regard and working. So I'll be on with him at 11 a.m. Eastern, and he'll share his thoughts. We always do something for Bobby Steve Coakley ever since Student Knowledge Radio started. So the 11th year on the 11th day at the damn 11th hour in regards to what this is of putting these things together in the day and time and what must be done. So I'm thankful for the opportunity to be here with y'all in essence and work in tandem to get that agent series pushed through, because whether you got family members, organizations, whatever it is, if you don't understand how these agents work and how they move, that's the same thing like Dr. Francis Cress Wilson was saying, what Dr. Neely Fuller Jr. was talking about, the system of white supremacy, peace and blessings be upon them both. If you don't understand white supremacy and how it works, everything else will confuse you. So the byproduct of that is the agents. You understand what I'm saying? You can have an agent that works on your behalf, but most of them work at your behest. You understand? So we have to be mindful in this regard. And nobody is more qualified. Being a son of the Panthers, East Coast Panthers, my brother Che Black is a phenomenal cinematic mind who gives it to us in a realistic approach. And I told him, and I think he kind of cried a little bit when I said it to him. I said, I haven't heard something this thorough since Steve Coakley Sr. Understand? So stay in tune. New Day is doing the work to resurrect you, and the ethereal space is doing the work to wake up that essence and spirit in you so you could be back in communion with the godmothers, so you can be walking from a holistic fashion, like Captain Uncaged was saying earlier, in regards to this holistic approach of wellness in spirit and in truth. So I yield that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Outstanding. Thank you for that addition, Brother Knowledge Born Allah. I got two more little clips I want to play for y'all. Then we're going to get ready to close out. I'm going to come to the ethereal journalist for the final thoughts and closing remarks. And then we're going to close out for this evening. All right. I want to just drop a little bit of ethereal inspiration on y'all so we can close out on a positive note. All right. So let me come to the brother here on Button Poetry. All right. Let's let it rock.
Falls right in line with what we've been talking about.
This poem by informing you that I am bilingual. That the Queen's English that I speak so eloquently before you now is not my first language, no. My grandmother never used such diction when she spoke me up in the welfare line amongst the other dwellers. Or when she called down to me from the project window for dinner, no, we spoke a more southern fried English. This rhetorical recipe has been in my family for generations, Grandma said. Big Mama hid it under her tongue because she had it for northern cities doing a great migration. Scholars call it African-American vernacular English, but my guys, they call it slang. The man called it Ebonics. I call it America's Creole. The last remaining squad birthed from a European and African pidgin turned into the dialect of the doughboys, the base that appears in a rapper's rhythmic rhetoric spoken everywhere from the trap house to the liquor store, from the HIV testing clinic to the bus stop. Ebonics is the official language of the undefined Black culture, the native tongue to the underrepresented Black American. And long before I received liberal art degrees and stood unappointed in academic settings, I was born on the south side of Chicago and managed to garner up enough street cred from the School of Hard Knocks to qualify me to teach you all a few of my languages essentials. So hipsters, I hope you have your notepads ready. This is Ebonics 101. Chapter 1. Any English word that holds an I-N combination where the I becomes an A. Like Billie Holiday couldn't sing, that girl could sing. If Martin did all that walking, I wonder if him feet stank traveled all them miles just to hear freedom rang. I wonder what he was thinking. Chapter 2. Any English word that holds an O-R combination, the R sound becomes silent. Like Emmett screaming, don't beat me no more. Like Rodney screaming, don't beat me no more. Like Trayvon asking, what is you following me for? Chapter 3. Any English word that holds an ER combination where the ER becomes an A. Like in the great quote from the linguistic scholar, Miss Lauren here. And even after all my logic and my theory, I add a motherfucker so you ignorant niggas hear me. See, there's culture in these words. The bended back of my speech comes from years of carrying the Black experience. The verbal diaspora of Africa shakes my spine. We cross our T's with the middle passage, dot our I's with strange fruits, curve our S's with mid-Atlantic roots. You cannot expect us to be slaves to your phonetics forever. And just like our history, we will defy the structure of your Jim Crow grammar. Refuse to speak within the lines of your Mason Dixon diction. You cannot correct this. Context this, connotate my accomplishments. See, use double negative to make positive. He will write until the black story no longer subsists. He will write until a clenched fist is synonymous with a clenched fist. He will write until the black male is able to live, be, exist. Class dismissed.
And let me stop my screen share there, family. And let me come back to you all. Shout out to the brother. I believe this is his book here, A Peculiar People, poems by Stephen Willis. All right. Shout out to brother Stephen Willis. All right. Let me stop my screen share there. Let me come back to the Ethereal Journalist for any commentary on that and any final thoughts and closing remarks before we get ready to close out for this evening.
Wow, that was incredible. That reminds me, just so I didn't mention earlier, and we're going to be talking more about this on Saturday, but we are putting a call out to sisters who are poets and also spoken word artists, because I'm looking for MWM to have its own poet spoken word artist laureates for MWM 30. So that means for 2 to 3 years, 2 sisters will be representing us nationally and internationally in the context of the spoken written word. So again, for those who are interested, you can get your application by just emailing us at nationalmwm@aol.com. Again, nationalmwm@aol.com, or you can just text me at 267-636-3802. And of course, Baba Abiodun will be assisting in selecting who our poet laureate will be for 2027. But going back to tonight's program, family, again, another incredible ethereal journey. Just a little, yeah, definitely. Just a little food for thought, and we'll go into this next week. A little homework assignment for folk. I know some already know this, but we're going to talk a little more about it next week, because I think it's important that we put some things in its proper context, because some of our people are still under the impression that the Emancipation Proclamation freed us. Well, for that time, at least, comparatively speaking, it did help do something, but I think people kind of, got a little off track with it. Like we were taught, what's his name discovered America. Anyway, we got to clear some things up. So for next week, I want folks to be ready to talk about something called the Compensation Emancipation Act. What was that about? And why was that like, oh, by the way, that took place April 16th, 1862 is when that went into effect. So, I think the Emancipation Proclamation was 1865? But yet, something called the District of Columbia Compensated Emancipation Act went into effect. So we want to talk a little more about this next week, because as we proceed in obtaining our reparations, we want to make sure that we're able to demonstrate and show just how the inequality has been in effect all across the board, even right before Lincoln so-called freed the slaves. We want people to see the trickery that took place. So keep that in mind. We'll talk more about it next week.
I say. Let me come over to Brother Pollinator. Any additions on that? Final thoughts, closing remarks.
Oh, Berakah. And that's blessing in Hebrew. And that's the same name your boy Barack got. That's where you get that from. Berakah. That's what that means. Blessing, blessed one. The brother just hit it on all cylinders. I mean, our language is very multidimensional, and we know how to speak in different tones and in different, elements to reach our people, even in the sight of those who claim that they're trying to understand our language so that they could decipher it, decode it, and stop us from coming together collectively. That's what the slaves used to do. They used to have their own language, and a lot of it was within the rhythm and the music and, just how they talked about things. So what the brother pretty much did was tell everybody that we can speak whatever language we need to reach our people so that we can make an impact and have that maximum impact collision on the mic so that we can get this thing together before, you know, the crap hits the fan. And that's where we're at now. Great episode tonight, the 42nd episode, but we're going to continue this conversation in the 43rd episode. It's going to be part 2, starting off with our illustrious ancestor brother, Steve Coakley, who has a lot of information that a lot of people have not gained information from or access to, but we're going to give you a little access to that information because Steve Coakley was one of the, our ancestor Steve Coakley was one of my favorites when I was understanding, trying to raise my consciousness, trying to develop myself internally through my internal technology of how to learn and see things in its right, proper perspective and not get caught up in the illusions or the strong delusions that they want to send us. But he broke a lot of things down. And everybody knows that I was a part of a fraternity, Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. And like I said, to me, it's a school of thought. It was a spoken wheel on my journey. And I got to understand some things while I was in there. But I knew at the end of the day, that's bad. I ain't gonna say it's bad seed to plant my bad ground to plant my seed in, but I know that I had to graduate from that because fraternities are not the ceiling. They're not the glass ceiling where you've arrived and now you don't need to move up a little higher than just the Greek philosophy of how they taught or teach us in those fraternities and sororities. No, we come from Akabalan, Africa. We come from the places of carbonated, melanated people, not the Greeks or the Romans. So that was just another part of my journey. So I accept that and I embrace that. No different than any other spoken wheel or school of thought that I've went through. So I say all that to say, continue to elevate, transcend, and ascend your mind to receive certain things. Certain things, you know, if it doesn't resonate or apply, yeah, you got to let it fly. But these brothers like Ancestor Dale Jones and Ancestor Steve Coakley, they were bringing the fire, the real heat, which is the truth at the end of the day. Now, whether you accept that truth or reject that, you're going to have to make an accountability for that. If you get caught up in a delusion or a facade or something that now, oh, he said that's the way it was supposed to be and he was right. Damn, I done got caught. I'm in the pit now. I can't get out. Don't let yourself get into the pit of these lies and deceptions that's happening in our earth right now. Try to maintain your integrity to know that within yourself is the truth, because it's within our internal technology more so than it is externally. And it's called discernment, it's called intuition, and it's called wisdom. So with that being said, I'm going to say upward, forward, onward. You know, this has been a beautiful journey tonight. And I appreciate everybody that lend their opinions and viewpoints and interactions to this conversation that we had tonight. And we will continue it on the 43rd episode next Tuesday at 8 o'clock sharp. I say shalom and one.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Thank you for that addition, Brother Pollinator. Let me come on down. Last but not least, for knowledge born Allah.
I was talking about them Zionists. You see how they were trying to cut me off? You understand what I'm saying? I want to thank you, Kevin and Cage. I don't know if I give you enough props and love for what you do and how you structure things for us coming, you know, together. I heard that spoken word artist before. I heard that exact same poem, and it's National Poetry Month, so that works as well. You understand what I'm saying? I'm very, very, very profound and beautiful. We dealt with a lot of code switching, and code switching in itself will give you a mental and spiritual and emotional disorder, right? Unless it is properly guided. Like if you're trained astutely in regards to it and you assign it as a mission and a mandate, right? Other than that, you'll develop a disorder of the mind. You'll develop a schism where you won't know the difference between the two. So if it's, you know, properly harnessed and taught righteously, then it becomes something great. So I love what the brother said, right? I don't love what it does with people online. Our language is supposed to be something sacred. Our enemies are not online telling you what they mean when they say what they mean. They're not doing it yet. They're not doing it. So from a military etheric thing, I have to put that, sort of thing out there, because what we do is sacred and who we are is sacred. So your lives and your being are sacred. So you have to guard them and tile within accordingly. I understand that we have to express our art, and it's a dire need, right? There's a thing that comes along with that goes hand in hand. But those things within our culture that are sacred forms of communication ain't supposed to be shared. Ain't nobody supposed to be translating, our Madunitaire language. You understand what I'm saying? Our Hebrew, it ain't for them to decipher. You understand? So that's why they put up their bandit art, because their bandit art is something that's supposed to be adjacent. Like I was talking about the movie Sinners earlier, when the bloodsuckers came up there, they didn't come up in there violently. They came up in there like they were just wanting to have a good time. Can't we all be family just for one night? You understand what I'm saying? And it was like, no, no. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like seeing them for who they are, not what they appear to be, regardless. But they had used that time to be a push a thought. You understand what I'm saying? To push the thought in a hypnotic sort of way, and they push the thought to the two people that they could enter. That was the girl and the guy that was together. You understand what I'm saying? The mulatto and the other one. So by their delusion of grandeur, they were turned. You understand what I'm saying? So when you put these other things out there, they came up there with that banjo singing that song from that black woman talking about they picked for Robin clean, right? But when they got outside, and they had all of their mindless folks together, they was on that rocky road to Dublin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You understand what I'm saying? So he's pulling them and using these black people in their essence to build up from their power to become all powerful.
Energy vampires.
In service to his people. You understand? So they never forget about their people. Just real quick, back to that part with Steve Coakley. Steve Coakley's talking directly to our enemies before the world. He ain't cowering. He ain't buck dancing. He wasn't doing none of that. But he also showed us that it comes with a cost. You understand what I'm saying? So you don't get into the realm of our sacred God communing with one another and share that with outsiders, because they damn sure not going to share it with you. They're not going to tell you what they're talking about. You understand? When they're surprised that you speak their language, they switch their language up. They won't talk around you no more. You understand? So we have to be mindful in regards to that, and know that the interlopers, the cowards, the eavesdroppers, and all of the people that are there, that they are dissenters, because they make their maximization of effort in regards to what they're pushing through their cultural means, and give us the scraps of it, and we buy it up hook, line, and sinker. You see a black dude with a damn Japanese tattoo or some Chinese tattoo. You understand what I'm saying? Look, this is how you know how far we have devolved away from what it is. We might be the mothers and fathers of all of those civilizations, but we ain't give birth to these bastard children that are running away. They're there operating off our essence and foundation, but they're not paying homage. They're robbing. You know what I'm saying? They're robbing and duplicating. They ain't in research and development. They're in the other R&D, robbing and duplicating. So when our elders, when our ancient ones, when our old ones, when those wise ones who walked this way before us warned us not to, go amongst them and not to intermarry amongst them, the sons of God seen the daughters of man, they was fair, and that's how we fell again. We cannot continue to fall. We cannot continue to leave breadcrumbs, because that's where roaches come from, and that's how raisins ends up in the tater salad. So great episode tonight with this 42 declarations of innocence, these 42 states. We need to fortify our minds and our essence and our hearts and our beings, and I'm thankful for an opportunity to come amongst the righteous and judge up amongst the gods. You understand what I'm saying? So honor to you, Captain Uncaged, Almighty El Pollinator, and the apple of the world, the mother of our civilization and the mother of our universe, Doc Empress Chief.
And major commendation to you, my brother. Knowledge born Allah.
Excellent. And so eloquently said. You had another addition, Sister Empress?
I just want to say
Ashe, yo.
That's why I know she's still in there. When she come off mute, I'm good. Okay, if she don't come off mute, I ain't doing a good enough damn job. I need to go back to the drawing board. So she come off mute, I'm good. Okay.
All right, you got the stamp. All right. With that being said, family, we getting ready to close out for this evening. And I do got to add in, I got to agree. Some things is not to be sold nor told. You know what I mean? Some things is supposed to be kept close to the vest. And so we have to remember that and acknowledge that as we move forward into the future, so we don't continue to make the same mistakes of the past. All right. That's how they was able to infiltrate through aspects of our culture through hip hop, because they were able to commercialize it and to be able to use those same strategies and techniques against us once they was able to break it down, because we were so eager to capitalize from it, instead of developing our own apparatuses of manufacturing and distribution, right? And being able to make sure that they were in a positive sense of the word, gatekeepers and safeguards to make sure that we're not giving out pertinent information or things that will be detrimental to us further in the future as far as growth and development is concerned, strategically. All right. So, there are some, things that we can share, and there are some things that we absolutely cannot and should not. And in the future, hopefully will not. All right. With that being said, family, we're going to close out for this session. Thank you once again for joining us for this episode of the Ethereal Journey Podcast. All right. I want to give thanks first and foremost, of course, to the Most High Creator Creators. I want to give thanks to the ancestors and the elders, those who have shed blood, sweat, and tears and paved the way to allow us to be here today. Shout out to Ethereal Journalists, always coming with it, bringing that fire. Brother El Pollinator, Brother Knowledge Born Allah, and of course, Sister Empress.
And yourself.
Oh, of course, myself. All right. So, I don't like to toot my own horn, but thank you for that. Okay. And of course, thank you all. All right. Thank you for listening, audience, those who will hear this broadcast presently, who will hear in the future, right? Those who are supporting. Thank you for your time, energy, and effort, dedication, determination, and discipline. All right. I bid you all truth, justice, peace, love, freedom, power, protection, prosperity, and divinely principled purpose. I want to say, let us continue to strategize, organize, and mobilize. And finally, I want to say, Pomoja Tutashenda family, which means together
we will win.
All right. Peace and love, family.
Onward to victory. Upward, forward, onward. Shalom, my good peoples.